we, the jury, find the defendant, Orenthal James Henson, not guilty of the crime of murder.
Princess Diana dead.
Oh, she died. Where's the remote?
Mickey Smalls was also embroiled in a rivalry between East and West Coast rappers. His competition, Tupac Shakur.
Tonight's getting involved with the supporters. Oh, this is outrageous.
I haven't got AIDS. I'm HIV positive.
Hello and welcome to Time. I'm JP.
I'm Gareth.
I'm Matty.
And I'm Liam.
And we're back, lads. Or I think I'm back. Was I even on the last one of these? I can't even remember at this point in time. But we're back.
You replaced JP. You were replaced by Benno last time.
Was it not me?
It was.
This is time. This is the whole point of the show. We can remember stuff 30 years ago, but we can't remember 3 months ago, Liam. This is why we do this show.
Madness.
We're going to be talking in very specific detail about where we were 25 years ago today, which is just wrong having to say that. But yes, we're back. It's December 1999, of course, as we are hitting the. It is the 25th anniversary of the Millennium, which then brings up the most obvious question, lads. Where were you, Millennium Eve? And let's start off with you first, Liam.
Well, I was reminded of this through one of the clips that we watched. I went to a free concert put on by Birmingham City Council in Centenary Square, and it had screens up of all the other events going on throughout the country. But we had the pleasure of having a concert, and the concert was headlined by the girl group Honeys.
Big group.
we saw the Millennium in listening to the dulcet tones of one of the UK's foremost pop groups. So yeah, that's how I'll always remember the change of a Millennium. Yeah,
it's exactly what people would have wanted as well. Matty, how about you?
I would have been. So I'll hit you
in the womb.
Yeah. I would have been
top C babies at 7, mate, didn't they?
13 at this point. So I would be like every New Year's until I hit the age of 16. I used to go to my our fellas and used to spend it with him. So we would have just been there watching some sort of sport on the telly. But the darts would have been on with it. Something would have been on, like we would have watched in like the best of the years of the football. He loved his rugby league as well. So just would have been that. I haven't got no vivid memories of it, but I guarantee would have been a bit of Raw on there as well. You know, a bit of the arm wrestling, of course, or the VHS he got me from the video shop. But yeah, would have definitely been spending time with my dad there.
Gareth, how about you as a man of a certain age, exactly the same as myself? You'd have been out and about, no?
I wasn't. I was in a bed in Nottingham. Me and my ex-girlfriend just stayed in and watched it on telly. Party animals, what we were partying like it was 1999 in an absolute shithole house in Nottingham, in Basford in Nottingham.
Oh my God! It feels like we're going to get onto the television coverage of the Millennium soon enough. So we'll get the extensive thoughts of exactly you watched that night. I was in Belfast at that point in time. There was a big group of us. There was a free event, rather like similar to the one that Liam went to. It was headlined by Bjorn Again, who were playing in Belfast as well. Not that long after them signing the Good Friday Agreement as well, I might add.
Bjorn Again.
And for those of you, sorry?
Bjorn Again signed the Good Friday Agreement.
It is. Do you not remember? Jerry Adams one side, Ian Paisley the other. 4 ABBA impersonators in between them as well. Shaking hands. It's famous, mate.
JP, can I ask though, was JP Mania running wild that night, was he?
Well, it was running wild, mate. And it ran wild to the point where I got lost. And you may know this about Belfast, and you may know this about me. My name and my accent don't really fit. They would suggest very, very different people. To certain groups in Belfast, I would represent very different things. It is British and Irish in the worst possible ways for both of them. So I walked around, and my drunk radar got me back to a place that I'd only been to once earlier that evening to where I was staying, and somehow made it home. There was a club as well that was involved later on. That was fucking awesome, I have to say. Belfast at that point in time was cracking. There was a fella though who fell asleep. There was scaffolding outside a massive church in like sort of South Belfast. Fell asleep with a bottle of Buckfast near the top of that. Didn't somehow roll off and die. Incredible stuff. But it was I was hungover for a couple of days. There was a lot of World's Strongest Man being consumed straight after that as well. So yeah, that was very much my millennium. So there we are.
As you said, though, JP, at the start there, a quarter of a century ago. Like, what are we? What is time? Once again, this is why we do this show. What the fuck is going on?
We are going to be 25 years into this as well. And then considering the world was meant to end that night and really didn't, we've done well since then. Probably end on the next one on there. But for those of you who are new to the show, Matty, why don't you tell people what exactly the format of this show is and what we're going to be doing?
As I said there, JP, we're in December 1999, and no matter what month, what year we pick, there's always the 4 pillars of life still exist to this day in my eyes. We've got sport, music, film, and television, and each one of us will intro each segment, part of the show, and we will discuss what was going on in them 4 pillars in December of 1999. So with that said, JP, if you don't mind me taking over, we're going to hand the baton first to who are we going with first tonight again, Liam? Was it my friend?
Myself.
You. So you take it away with the television.
Right. Television for December 1999. And all 3 soaps come to their big premium live events in the month of December as the year closes and we move on to a new millennium. Starting with EastEnders, 2 episodes on Christmas Day, intertwined between each other, which is usually the case when it comes to Christmas Day with the soaps. EastEnders starts with a revelation that Ian buys the Queen Vic from Mel. This is the through thread for most of the episode and leads to the second episode when Peggy finds out. But throughout of it, it's all intertwined with what Matty would probably describe as some of the biggest stars of the era, all sitting around a Christmas dinner table trying to coexist, like the NWO and WCW.
I'm telling you, mate, like this is a swerve though coming up, Liam. Like what happens with the Vic? I don't want to jump, too far ahead, but this is just. I remember this big sit down, big promo segments between Phil and Dan, it etched in my brain, this segment where it's just this is the classic stuff though. Honestly, this is look at the start that we've mentioned it before though, JP, surely the DeMarcos coming into team against the Brothers of Destruction in the Mitchells. I mean, this is what it's all about. Did we ever get that big blow off tag match though, JP? I don't think it
we never did.
We never got it. We didn't get it.
The DeMarcos push were there. I mean, it's hard not to make the links, and you'll find this with Corrie as well. Is the links between it's just star power all over the place.
Mate.
They're also bringing through new stars into the territory as well at the same time, and they tried it with the DeMarcos. I think there's more success on the Corrie side when it comes to some of the new stars that they'd introduced there as well. I thought Dan Sullivan was all right as that kind of upper mid card heel who would come in, work the territory, do 3 years, and in his case, the Rise of the Foot Soldiers 1 through 15.
He still mentions about he's the heel, one of the small-time heels with Lithgow in it.
The football,
cliffhanger.
Yep.
How old do you reckon McFadden is here?
Oh, you done your research, kind of. I reckon he's definitely younger than me. And I'm 30. What am I at this point? I'm 38. I reckon he's about 35 here, Gareth.
Don't say that. I'm very, very quickly looking at this point to see when Steve
40-year-old here, lads. So there you go.
Oh, is he 40? Oh, okay. No, that's not too bad. That I'll take that, Gareth. I will take that. That is not too bad.
But I'd make you sweat early before you get to me.
But this is, Liam, I'm saying this live on air because I didn't want to message us before, but it was one of them for me. The second part, without jumping too far ahead again, you get a little bit. It's like they done well, as in I admired it and I didn't at the same time because it was you get this whole first episode with the clip, no pun intended, the cliffhanger of all time.
Oh,
and then the second episode is just something completely different. It just doesn't. It hints it with, you see Peggy storming out, and then that's the other cliffhanger at the first scene for Boxing Day, I'm guessing, or New Year's, because you don't see them again, and it ends up being about Irene and the family, and Barry and Natalie winning the first one. It's just, I honestly was thinking if I got the wrong link here. It was just wild how they done it.
It's almost like one of those episodes of Dynamite when the champion stands tall at the end of the pay-per-view, and you're expecting him to appear like as the first segment on Dynamite, but doesn't appear at all.
Mate, that's exactly what I was thinking on this, and it was star laden, that first episode as well, isn't it? It really is. It's big guns. We're very much in the, when it comes to faction or tag teams, like there's been a switch around. The Williams and Gordy team of Frank and Pat Butcher, they've been split up at this point, and it's almost like they're up against with Roy Evans and Peggy Mitchell being put in the mix. It's like Vader and Bigelow being thrown in, all the Steiners, and so you're getting them all mixed up in there as well at the same time. So we've got Roy and Pat, and we've got Frank and Peggy at this stage. There's a whole, like, Bianca and Ricky have separated as well. She's seeing Beppy DeMarco in there. Phil hasn't seen Ben. Pauline hasn't done her heel turn here yet as well. But
she was always a heel, JP, to me. I couldn't stand her. She was a boring character. But that's the last place you'd want to spend your Christmas Day. Apart from Dot aside, you didn't want to be in that house, did you, with fucking Kathy? Well, maybe one of us did. Kathy, Ian, fucking Pauline. You want to be at that table, don't you, JP, with the DeMarcos? You want to be there, don't you?
I'd call it Gillian by accident and said, "Should we pop out for a pint?"
I tell you what, old Daniela Westbrook was a prime on the gear here, wasn't she? When you see her face here, if we're picking out them wrestling concoctions here, she's definitely in the latter day Sunny phase here, isn't she, old Westbrook?
I was thinking borderline Scott Hall type of behaviour at this stage.
It is stars throughout. Just looking at the cast list here: Phil Mitchell, Peggy, Frank, Dan, Jack Ryder, the heartthrob of the time, Jamie Mitchell, Lisa, Lucy Benjamin, obviously Janine, recording artist Supremo, Sid Owen as Ricky Butcher, Beppe, the whole DeMarco crew, Ian Beale's in it, Kathy's in it, Melanie, Tamsin Althwaite's in it, Pauline, Todd Carty, Mark Fowler's in it, Dot's in it. Little small role with Dot. Just everybody of the time seems to have come back to be a part of the Christmas episode. Come for the big payoff, haven't they? It's the Mania payoff. Do the Christmas two-parter, and you set you up, bit of a panto run in between.
Who's the
year, isn't it?
Who's the CM Punk working the house shows every week back in 2030? Who's the CM Punk causing chaos backstage, hating when these are coming back, JP? Who is it? Who's doing the run every week here? Who's it, Gareth? Come on.
I try to think who's doing the
Barry's doing the road work every week, and then as soon as he sees Frank come back, it's like, well, I'm fucked. I only get the limited amount in match time at Mania.
But it's to go back, I always think from kind of a narrative perspective, it's just really interesting that the second half is dominated by people who, let's be honest, don't really have long-term resonance with Eastenders fans.
Yeah, I'd be amazed if that second half it didn't die a death once again, like a Dynamite, where they tuned in at 15 million, seen the first scene, and then realised, it's built around Terry and Irene, 10 million, which is still good for the time.
Did they have the Only Fools and Horses leading?
Yeah,
they did.
That's the big bang of its day.
Do you remember they did, because they actually play it when they're watching telly, don't they? And you can hear them watching Only Fools and Horses on there as well. So it had that big lead in. It just seems, for a show at Christmas in particular, it's all built around show long storylines. This one kind of gives up on it. It's a bit mad. And Barry's gone to a different pub outside of the Vic. He should have been having that conversation with Natalie in the Vic. That's where this should have been taking place. It's not like it really goes anywhere. It's still it's just I love you, but this isn't going to work. That's it's summarized, and they spend a good good 10 odd minutes on this, which, that's prime real estate in EastEnders terms.
It's weird. It's sort of like you're getting into you're getting close to the main event here at WrestleMania, and you're putting Toru Yano up there, like in the top spot here. Like,
I was about to say, it's like doing one of them 7-hour manias, and they put all the big guns on first and fuck the main event off. Like, honestly, the first one, I was like engrossed. It was that good, that first episode. I was like, me and Gareth spoke before we recorded. Wanted to see the payoff, want to see the New Year's episode to see what happened, and then you get that saved up for you in the second. Such a contrasting episodes for me, lads.
So just to be the contrarian on this, do you think that this is one of the rare occasions that the New Year episode is a bigger episode than the Christmas episode, with it being the Millennium? And
maybe develop back creative, for the New Year, yeah.
Do you know what? Because this was actually a bit happy at the end, wasn't it? Like,
someone must have died on the New Year one.
I was waiting for something fucking disastrous to happen at the very end there, like where they were all stood out the Vic, but no payoff. Too many smiles for my liking for EastEnders on Christmas Day. This.
Does anybody want to know what the ratings were for these two episodes, just to put context in to television at the time?
If that second one done bigger, but I'll go for about, obviously over 10 million, Liam. We're going 12 mil, maybe 11 mil for the second one.
Okay, good guess. First episode did 11.9 million. And then the second episode did 12.4. So, absolutely juggernaut.
The brand's drawn in there, JP.
Irene's being a draw is like Tylene Buck saying she was as big a star as Goldberg back on the Nitro days. It's just like, I'm not having fucking that by any stretch of the imagination.
That was, though, it was bait and switch, wasn't it? At the end of the first one, it was good old bait and switch.
Piss off your long-term audience as well, doesn't it? Andre? So WCW style stuff there, but yeah,
brilliant.
But no, okay, moving over to the other side. We've got the remote in our hand and we're flicking over to what would have been central in my day. I don't know what it was in your local areas, the homes of
Granada.
Yep, okay, Granada you would have had. But we're switching over and it's Coronation Street. It's only one episode of Coronation Street on this day, Christmas Day. And Matty, I know you've been dying to get into this, but one of your favourite characters returns, doesn't he? And all hell breaks loose, if that's to put it mildly. Do you want to...
I mean, as JP said, if the stars galore in EastEnders, this is like, and then some in Corrie. Like, for me, everyone was a star. Even Curly is not even like even focused, really. What a star, Kevin Kennedy. I mean, the first thing I'm going to have to start off with this, lads, is the goatee on Kevin Webster, Liam. He's in his rough, Michael Lavelle is in his rough fucking period here, lad. He's definitely in the Manchester nightlife in real life. I mean, what's going on? Trying to be the Beppe of Corrie, the half Rob roll. No chance. Although, my mum, God bless her, always fancied the arse off Kevin Webster. So, you know. But yeah, I mean, can we before we get into the big return of El Tel, I mean, can we talk about Mike Baldwin? I mean, what's going on, JP? You can say it more better than I can. Can we not tiptoe around that whole story? What's going on, mate? Like,
well, he's doing Mike Baldwin type things, which is thinking with his dick yet again in all of this. So you see, he appears to have recently divorced from Alma.
Yeah,
and
clearly missing her. He's clearly missing her.
He's clearly missing her as well. He's shacked up with a young one, and she's not very happy. Yeah. I mean, does she work and she works, I'm assuming, at his factory? Is that right?
Underworld. Was it called Underworld, then, Liam?
It was.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's what they should have named Hacienda 2, really, shouldn't they? rather than that. But yeah, that's like a yeah, there's that going on with him. I mean, he's in there more or less for like a cameo. It is like when you kind of wheel out your Andres and whatnot, just for like doing working a tag, really. It's the new stars, mate. And I say this to someone who's recently, I don't want to date this too much, he's been watching I'm a Celebrity with Alan Halsall on it, aka Tyrone. And it's young Tyrone that we're getting here as well.
But actually, say, do you think that that's why, I'm being all serious, it's using a wrestling analogy, but this is why Tyrone had his longevity. I mean, using the power, this absolute star power of Jack and Vera will always get you over and give you credibility from the off, genuinely. So he was set for life, wasn't he?
Well,
he genuinely was.
It's like it was like a better Paul Roma.
Yeah.
We've got into on the wrestling stuff a little bit, lads.
Yeah.
Here we go. I was about to say, but Tina were
wrestling soap, so.
With Baldwin's presents he got her for Christmas, was he? It was definitely for him, that, and not it, wasn't it? The present.
Yeah. That's Mike Baldwin for you, though, isn't it? That's what he's like, isn't he? He forgot about Ken for that night, and Ken doing his usual snidey shit of, we'll have a drink with Alma in the pub.
But that, once again, that's like De Niro and Pacino and Heat, Baldwin and Barlow. Who you really rooting for? You know, Ken's being the face there, but is he really? Is he really?
It's Hogan and Savage. That's what it is.
Why did they never have a moment laid while there's like fireworks or what going off, and they hold in the hand Baldwin lying down going, I'm never going back to the underworld, as Baldwin holds him as Moby then closes an episode of EastEnders. Could have done that. Just stolen the entire ending of Heat there. But I thought this was definitely, of the two, I thought this was the better one. I thought it was a stronger episode.
Yeah.
There's a whole series of good, decent storylines there. I don't know who this bloke is up on screen at the minute.
Gary. It was sad. His wife passed on, didn't she, Liam? And he
because of a car that Terry sold.
Yeah.
Terry Duckworth, who came in, who I don't know. I mean, him and Nick Cotton, the similarities were too different. I think Terry was never into the hard drugs. He was just a bastard for all intents and purposes. He didn't even have heroin to blame for that kind of stuff as well. But you had the Martin Platt storyline, with Jill Halfpenny in there as well. So getting good workers in there with him at this stage. He appears to be, say he's a nurse, he's behaving more like a fucking doctor. Though, I'd have to say, not a doctor in sight as a child is going into cardiac arrest on a fucking table. So now we'll leave the nurses deal with this stuff.
It was a bit heavy, wasn't it? Usually EastEnders forded that for me. It was a bit heavy for Corrie, all that, but that was good.
Tell you what, Matty, what about the old working punch on Gary Mallet? It was like Lawler in Memphis.
Here he is. Look at Lavelle here. Like, what is he rocking?
But look at that. But look at that trios team they've set up of Kevin Webster, Curly, Jim McDonald.
Amazing. Give him the belt to AJ on Dynamite to give them it.
Isn't that right?
Fred and Ashley, there's just too many stars. Like, genuinely. Look at it now. Oh, honest to God. I think, once again, these characters, like, I can't even remember who that was. Was Fred's, like, girlfriend of the month, was it? Like, I don't even know. Gloria, was her name? In this?
Derek and Dory in these.
Derek and Dory, like. Yeah. And then you've got the random Russian guy who's shacked up with Maxine and Ashley.
Bit like Starcade 90 here, Gareth, isn't it? You've got a Russian tag team for the Memorial tag.
No, but it's as JP said there, I totally agree. I will once again engrossed. Once again, Gareth, I think we should stop. I'm not selling Portland wrestling to you anymore, mate. We're going back to what years of Corrie, mate. That's what we're doing for sure. Like, it's just incredible, Liam. Like this. What about yourself? Would you say this was a better show than EastEnders?
Well, I don't think it matters about what's a better show. It's how it did in the ratings, Matthew.
Okay.
So we had we know what EastEnders drew, but what we're saying this episode of Corrie. Now, just bear in mind, this is one episode, 1 hour long, so no break. What we're saying.
I'm hoping it just about got, because EastEnders used to always win, though, didn't he? EastEnders used to always get it, really. But I'm guessing with the star power, I'll say this slightly won. With it being a one-off as well, so you have to just sit there for your hour. Would you could go make a cuppa in between as well? You know what I mean? In between with the adverts and stuff. So I'll go for Corrie.
You put it on the sheet, mate, so I won't answer this one.
Okay. Well, this episode drew 15.6 million people.
On the Corrie.
4 million more than EastEnders. Jesus Christ.
Well, they're not just popping a rating, though, and I'm going to go to Goldberg versus Hogan at the Georgia Dome, really, aren't you? Like with these many stars, like, but you wouldn't blame them, though, were you? It's a better piece of TV.
It is.
As much as we're saying that it's star laden with the people on top, ITV also got a headliner coming out of this, didn't they, with Jill Halfpenny appearing as a nurse alongside Martin. You know, that's the main star for ITV drama at the moment, isn't she?
Even Denise Welsh in there as Natalie behind the bar. Like, I don't know if this is pre or post affair with Kevin. Maybe it's post, isn't it? And then waiting for Vinny all episode, and then he gets the main event scene at the end. He gets the closing moment of Mania. Old Vinny, he's there with this big smooch and every weekend.
Like when the Miz won at Mania, mate, isn't it?
Genuinely is.
Doing it. But great stuff, honestly.
Yeah, really enjoyed this. Like, genuinely, like, it was so good. So good.
What a line though from like Terry when he was obviously he's come back and he's been that bastard and he's sold his mum like a welded together car that's led to a car accident that's killed Judy Mallet, and then like Terry says to Gary Mallet, you know, the widower, like, it was just Judy's time. Bang! Like, what a moment! Like,
that's the heel line that you've ever heard. What is it in the history? Like, Jesus Christ!
Proper bastard, isn't he? Proper Dominic Mysterio.
Right? He really was. He was such a good character. He was.
So that was EastEnders and Coronation Street. So we'll move on to the other one in our triumvirate of soaps that we look at, and that's Brookside. Now, I'm not going to give you any spoilers here, but Brookside didn't really compete on the ratings front with either EastEnders or Coronation Street. But as a 30-minute long episode, I think it really did tie up a few storylines. Ron Dixon is really fearing the Millennium Bug, and he won't leave his house. The only reason he gets to leave his house is because his daughter-in-law goes into labour. So that's the show-long storyline, like, throughout the episode. We also have the demise of Lindsay Corkill's club becoming, in the words of Susanna Farnham, a bit of a youth centre due to a load of kids showing up and taking over the club almost. But yeah, for whoever did watch this, any thoughts on this episode of Brookside, Gareth?
Yeah, I thought that, I mean, it's very much, you're in that Brookside period, aren't you, where it's jumped the shark at this point. We're definitely in latter day WCW here, where you know, things have been milked and there's a bit of storyline churn and things coming through. There's a few people clinging on to their roles a bit longer than they needed to do here. So it's definitely Brookie when it was when the peak was over. But there's still some good stuff here. Still trying to do them cutting edge of its time storylines there with the kids all doing the E's in the nightclub here, like underage, and you know, we're seeing good old Mick Johnson's daughter there getting on the sneakily finding out here right on cue about tinheads selling some E's there, and she's up for a bit herself. So we've got her doing a bit of the worst acting under the sun as she drops a knee in what used to be La Luth. I don't know what it was called this time, but yeah, some terrible acting there, but definitely that hard-hitting, gritty, real stuff going on in Brookie that you maybe didn't get on the other channels there with this coming across. You obviously you had that
ECW, mate.
It was.
Rob Van Dam.
Realism with the Millennium Bug. You know, the only ones that mentioned it, as you say, Liam. That was Brookie to a T, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
But the other side here, they had the big storyline here where Nicky Shadwick had been raped by the Irish lad Luke, and again in sort of good, almost like kitchen sink style, you know, drama. They had his mum and they had Nicky's nan sort of having a bit of a sit down here and just, you know, really kind of like talking through the dilemma of, you know, my son's a rapist, but he's still my son, and can I stand by him, you know, or what can you stand by your son, you know, how far do you take it, what have they got to do for you to make them like give pass them by and things. So again, still trying to stay close to its roots here, Brookie, by delivering the gritty realism and delivering that thing where they're, you know, getting deep into different perspectives and that. But you've still got that nice comedy aside as old Millennium Bug terrified Ron Dixon ends up in a power cut in a lift as Rachel Jordash gives birth in a darkened lift as Ron's crapping himself about the end of the world is here as well. So, you know, get that balance right, but we're past the glory days at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else got anything to add?
Just looking at the couple of tag teams been on screen there, JP, like Mick and Mick Jono and Sinbad that give the old DeMarco brothers a bit of a run for the money. Would you staff them up for a month, JP? Mick and Sinbad.
Oh, mate, you always would do, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
like, you'd always. I mean, like Eliminators-esque though, aren't they? Like, really are.
Sinbad on the apron all match, hot tag. Jono doing all the work, and Sinbad comes in.
Robert Gibson.
Oh.
Jono doing the work.
I tell you what, though, I looked up their ages here, and like Mick Jono was 39 and Sinbad was 42, and I was like, how can I have nearly a decade on Mick Jono at this point?
How wedded are they? Like everything, like done everything in life at 39. You could beat up, owned about 90 businesses, kids, seven marriages.
Must have been hard slog.
I always say it though, when Ron, I think it was when Sinbad speared Ron Dixon through that window, mate. That was one of the best spots I've ever seen of all time.
Classic ECW, mate. That's what it is. Classic ECW.
Okay. Well, as you say, I will agree with Gareth. I didn't see the whole episode, but in general, yeah, Brookside for me, even till its dying day, like we've spoke about other episodes later on, maybe even one of the last ones we have, and it still had a go though, Gareth, with that. It still tried to stay to its roots all the time for me. No matter if the camera changed, everything, it always did, to be fair to it. So, brilliant.
I will always maintain that every major terrestrial channel, you generally need a soap. Why are they not bringing back Brookie? Like, it doesn't need to be like late night. It doesn't need to be an hour long, just a half an hour. I think it's perfect to bring back now. We're ready for that. Although it could turn into what ECW on WWE ECW could end up being as well. To go full bore on the whole wrestling analogy side.
I also think if you watch this episode and didn't know that the end of Brookside was coming within the next 3 years, they have its curtain call moment in the credits, don't they? With the heels and faces all standing on the balcony at Channel 4, waving to the camera. It's not what I wanted to see when I'm investing.
Stampede 99.
Yeah, not for me whatsoever. The heel, Mick Johnson standing next to Jimmy Corkill, storylines forgotten about, all of them coming at the same entrance. Not for me, that wasn't. So no, not at all. But yeah, that's Brookside. 3 years later, it wouldn't be a soap anymore. So yeah, maybe that was the real Millennium Bug of it all.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on to some game shows of the time, and a game show here that a lot of people probably think had finished by this point, but it had come back from the ashes almost, and that's Gladiators. Now, as an aside to this was only a 4-episode series that came on over the period of Christmas on ITV, in probably an attempt to boost ratings. They've really gone for the ratings here, where the premise of these 4 episodes are past champions all competing against each other, rather than new contestants taking place and going through the heats and to the grand final. Also, as an aside, these episodes around the Christmas period originally aired on a digital channel that I don't know if many of you remember. Before the advent of Sky Digital, there was a little known digital service called On Digital.
Yep. My sister had that. My sister did have that.
Before it became On Digital, it was originally ITV Digital.
ITV Digital, yeah.
And one of the big draws of ITV Digital broadcasting was new episodes of Gladiators that you couldn't see on terrestrial television. These 4 episodes that were aired around Christmas time were the 4 episodes that had originally aired in May. So these were put on to fill a gap in the schedule for ITV. But if you do watch these, you can tell Gladiators was well past it at this point. They even went so far as to bring back John Fashioner as the host, after having Jeremy Guscott hosted.
Yeah, I was shocked at that, Liam.
3 seasons.
My head went, because I thought, I know this is near the end, but where was Guscott? And I'm thinking, was it in the 2000s it was still going? But now you just explained it, that he brought Fashion You back. Well, rightfully so. You've got to do
He was shit, Guscott.
Yeah, he never, ever filled the boots, did he?
He wasn't even good talking about the rugby union during the Six Nations, and that was his fucking bread and butter, and he was crap at that. Like, he was terrible.
Dare I ask Gareth his opinions on Jeremy Guscott? Steer clear.
Who is he?
I won't start.
So yeah, this episode, I alluded to in a conversation with Matty is very much end of the territory sort of stuff here. The singlets have all changed to something that is not as striking and jumping off the screen as the original ones. Wolf's got a short back and sides instead of his long flowing hair that you're used to. Cobra's dyed his hair blonde. He's not taped his wrists, so he's already got the sign that he's leaving the territory. There's a lot of things in here that if you watch, you know that.
Mate,
you know it's coming, Liam. You're right. This is JP,
you know it's over when Wolf is teaming with Ben Kennedy / Ken Anderson.
Playing it for laughs. The gimmicks have gone. It's just like, we're here to get the paycheck, and then we're moving on. Hopefully, we get like a Gladiator South Africa contract, a Gladiators Poland contract. Something on the way out here. But we know this is done, so we're going to do this at half speed, sort of stuff.
And in the heat of steam, though, they're not even good anymore, though, are they? So they've been worked into the ground that much, and they're just coming back for this payday, and they're getting run ragged for me. Like, just
The game that, if it manages to make its way past the copyright overlords as well, these lads are they're shit up against the contestants. The contestants should be the gladiators here, because the other two boys look far too hard. They got Wolf chasing after you. I'd fancy myself in a sprint against Wolf at this stage in the game. Like, honestly.
This is like your gassed up workers from the early 1990s going up there against the new generation who can work a bit, isn't it?
It is
definitely making them look a bit slower and a bit more immobile.
Wolf still like clinging on though as this heel. Look, Fash even I love it. Fash always still to though, didn't he, as well? To be fair,
well, there is that moment that comes at the end of this particular game. Of I would say, is it Powerball, isn't it? When after the ball into the things, where he jumps on top of Fashnu as well. It looks like, okay, we're getting a bit of physicality in there, and then proceeds to just do that at the end. Just put his finger up to his, and it's just like, what are you going for here? What kind of heat are we going for? Because that's cheap all-star kind of heat. Well, it's like new generation workers, isn't it? Are you a worker, or are you playing, or are you doing stuff to play to the kiddies? Like, and it doesn't know what it is at this stage, and it needed to kind of have that reboot and refresh.
I love this Wolf having to run after people who can run.
I know. He was never good though, really, even his prime for me. He was a good character. He was never a good worker.
Ken Kennedy looks a state as well. He doesn't know what he's up to.
It was just
it's always where you get like an important thing. It'd be like a semi-final, and like there'd be the wall, and so it's like someone's up against Shadow, and then the other contestant's up against Wolf, and you're like, well, just give him a bite at the final, why don't you? Like, it's just not fair.
But to be fair though, like, I don't know, it's papered a bit, but the crowd still looks okay, Liam, for like I say, it does. No, it really. I was shocked at it. But as you say, and I knew they done these type, but as you say, champions versus champions, and that's what they had to sell it on in the end, I suppose. But fair play to them for getting a good house still.
Well, I will also say that I had been to Gladiators numerous times.
Of course.
Well, it's been filmed in Birmingham, and it was always a papered house as far as I knew. I don't think they ever sold tickets for it. I think it was always given to schools and stuff. So, I mean, even more so if some of the seating sections are blacked out, aren't they, with the old tarpaulin, aren't they?
To quote the job I was doing in 1999, there was a bloke I worked with, and he just hated the idea of children being at any live event, that they diluted the atmosphere. He was a former hooligan, I might add, as well, which did answer a lot of kind of questions, but he just hated the idea. He just went, they just ruin it, don't they? But yeah, it's classic Gladiators, mate.
So again, a little bit of ratings chat in terms of putting some context on this. 1992, when Gladiators first started, the first series of Gladiators, regularly drawing over 14 million every Saturday night. At this point, with these 4 episodes, and bear in mind it was over the Christmas period, so people were in the front of their televisions a little bit more, 6 million. So
wow,
a big drop there year on year there, Gareth. Not a good sign, is it?
But moving on mute though, Gareth, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, I've got a Lime Street station going on in the background here, so I'm only able to comment at this time.
But moving on to other game shows, probably.
But that is, I was going to guess, Liam, that it went like.
Go on,
Go ahead. No, go on, mate. Sorry. No, go on. No, mine froze there, mate. Sorry. No, it's all good. It's all good.
Okay, moving on to other game shows of this time. Channel 5 then got involved with a game show called Fort Boyard, hosted by Melinda Messenger and starring EastEnders megastar Leslie Grantham as Boyard of the Fort, hence the name. This was one of Channel 5's big flagship shows when Channel 5 launched, I remember, and it was on a Friday night in a primetime slot, but over the years he went through some changes, but it was a mix of Gladiators, Crystal Maze, Krypton Factor, and for the time it was around, it was quite popular, and it was one of the things that wasn't one of the programs people would bring up as a bit of a laughing stock on Channel 5 and got quite a cult following. Do people remember Fort Boyard? It went on to Challenge afterwards. JP, ever wanted to sign up and enter?
Well, no, because it looks like bloody hard work is what you get away from this. It's like a fucking slog as well. And I mean, I didn't realise, but I only realised at the very end of the show where there's like a rankings board of where people, how many coins they've managed to collect. And I got completely distracted by Leslie Grantham there appearing. It's not the first time he's done that in his life. There is like where it's different cities who are teaming up. So these guys were representing the wonderful city of Stevenage, a place I've been through once. I didn't really want to stop or go back there ever again in there, but they seem intensely proud of it. All load of mates from the gym. But it was like one of these shows where I think I gave it a go and I went, yeah, I could just watch Crystal Maze really. And that's the thing with it, is it doesn't have the kind of like any of the comedy of that, although physically, like in terms of the task, they are genuinely quite taxing. You'd need to be it's like if personal trainers went, yeah, I like Crystal Maze, but it's a bit too fucking intellectual for my tastes, so let's get themselves on Fort Boyard, which was a real fort off the coast of France, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it was originally a French game show that was that the rights were bought by Channel 5
makes sense.
To create a UK version. Matty, Fort Boyard, first time you seen this, or do you remember it at this time?
Oh, mate, I mean, a 13-year-old me, I mean, to Melinda Messenger hosting something, so, I mean, I was there, like, just, but never really cracked it, though, would you say, as like a presenter, or what else did she do after this? I remember it being on, what other show was she on, like a talk show late at night on Channel 5, lads, as like a kind of semi, like, host type thing, but other than this, I can't remember.
Is that the Jack Doherty show?
Oh, I'm not too sure what it was called, JP, now, but yeah, but this, I remember this being a thing, though, Liam, obviously genuinely with that as well, but with Leslie Grantham, I never, as a kid, never got that, but now looking at this tonight, I was like, okay, I can see what they're going for here, and I can see the stuff, and as JP said, it very much is like hard work, like physically, but I just got Crystal Maze vibes all over the show from it. That's the first thing I thought. I was like, this is just obviously with a bigger budget, you know, the Crystal Maze. But yeah, it was okay. I didn't mind it, to be fair. And yeah, it was all right. But it does make me want to go back and watch some more Crystal Maze, though, now. Richard O'Brien, we've said it a lot on this show. Just that harmonica, lads. I mean, it's just the best. Mumsy, take me back. Just take me back.
Well, so with Boyard, being played by Leslie Grantham, he left after, I believe, 2 seasons. Do you know who replaced him as the Boyard of the Fort, Matty?
No, but as soon as you say it, I'm going to go, yeah, that's him. Anyone else know?
No.
It was Christopher Ellison, a.k.a. DCI Burnside.
Yes!
Wow. Was he playing Boyard or Boyard's brother? Like,
DCI Boyard was his.
It's like when you recast Ben Mitchell in it. Just put someone different in when you put Burnside in there. Great stuff, that. I would say. Sorry, Jake. The Messenger stayed there till the end, Liam.
I think there might have been another presenter towards the end, but I don't know.
Lucy Pinder.
Linda Lusardi, I think it was.
Who's that, Gareth? Who's that?
I would say for her experience level and her background, she's okay.
No, she is.
She's
That's what I'm
trying to
saying.
do. She's
She actually
kind of
is
have a depth.
good.
Yeah,
But
she was always very like personable. Like
well. Yeah.
it was very big home counties vibe that you got with her. Like, and that's kind of like what it was. It was always very nice, very personable. She was a better presenter than if you just go to Sam Fox at the Brits, like to discovering actually like if it's Melinda Messenger and Mick Fleetwood, she would have been in with a better chance of holding that shit
The
show.
girl next door, wasn't she, JP? That's what.
Yeah.
Like, that was what he was.
Who was on page 3.
Going on from what Matty was saying earlier, she was in Cowboy Builders after this with car wheeler dealer Dominic Littlewood, and they were like a duo that would go around revealing builders. I don't know how they would have used Melinda Messenger to entice builders into a.
I know, yeah.
Build, but,
could you imagine a build? I was just thinking that. Could you imagine a builder's reaction if Melinda Messenger had turned up? It just would have been in his mind like a Daily Sport come to life. All of a sudden, he thought all his birthdays and Christmases had come at once, and then he's realised Don Littlewood's out and there's a fucking big camera crew about to stitch him up for doing a shonky shuttering job.
Whilst we're on ages, how old's Messenger here then, lads?
30.
27.
I was going to say 25.
28. She is at this point. Liam, close enough, mate.
I've done my research, Matty. Don't worry.
Yeah, I bet you have.
Also, just wanted to point out the annoyance in this group chanting Boyard as they ran between different rooms as well. That was go away heat. That really was. Just like, fuck off. Don't want to know.
Well, also, just going through a wiki here quite quickly. She's on Celebrity Big Brother. Yep. She was on a game show, Beat the Crusher, with Freddie Starr in 1999.
Yes, I do remember that. Yes, I think the whole premise of that is that you parked your car on stage, and for every question you got wrong or didn't answer correctly, this crusher would lower itself. What a concept! Almost as good as another Channel 5 vehicle around the time of Fort Boyard, Touch the Truck, where you would all stand in a shopping centre with a hand on a truck, and the last one standing with their hand on the truck won the truck. I mean, brilliant television.
Incredible, that.
No wonder they ended up with like lower level European football at that time. It's just like, fuck it, I'm just going to go with this. And some softcore erotic drama after 11 p.m. That was a classic Channel 5.
And as the TV landscape changed with Channel 5 bringing game shows on board and old favourites like Gladiators slowly ending, we were coming towards the new millennium. And to notify this, as me and JP both alluded to at the beginning, there were a number of concerts going on throughout the country. Not only the country, but worldwide as well. The BBC broadcast most of these, skipping between all of them like a edition of Live Aid as the year changed, and there were some very noticeable artists throughout the country headlining concerts. Nelson Mandela was in South Africa. Mick Hucknall was in Manchester. Jules Holland, as he was somewhere in the country introducing Ruby Turner on stage to do a song with him.
Ruining it with a piano, no doubt. Yeah.
Shaking Stevens was at the Millennium Stadium in Wales. Yeah, so just throughout the country, that there were concerts going on. Some a little bit better than others. Let's just say that.
Oh, mate. I mean, I didn't see any of the TV coverage. I mean, the big recollection I had, and I've got it as my backdrop for this show as well, was it was being told about how bad the Millennium Dome was going to be and how bad it was. And it just sort of did put that little bit of a dampener, because even to someone like me who lived in London at the time, was like, no, I'm going to Belfast for this. I don't really want to be in London. It seemed like it'd be carnage going out. And I mean, again, if it manages to get through, I have to say, a fireworks show for the turn of the millennium, it was pretty low rent considering what we're used to these days. Like, I think it was like very, just like, I mean, I don't know, fireworks might well have just completely upped their game over recent years, but it was like very, I don't know, yeah, some of it looks a bit War of the Worlds-esque, actually, as if they're like fucking like giant, like, I don't know, meteoroids hitting London and the rest of it. But Gareth, you were watching TV at this time. What were you watching?
maybe switched off by now, mate, to be honest.
I sleep before midnight, Gareth.
Yes. 93, 94 season.
Nah, it was, I don't know, I just think back of it as like such a weird time because, like, you know, there's obviously all this and the whole celebration going on. And it just felt like I was 21 and we were 21, weren't we, JP, at like this point? So we're sort of like, you know, we've
should be in your prime to enjoy this type of event.
You've sort of, I don't know, you're of an age kind of thing that you can kind of probably take it all in properly and appreciate what it is. And it felt like such a mega thing, the build to this moment and the countdown and things. And then I don't know, like you kind of look back now and it sort of just doesn't feel that big at all. Like I don't know, like it was such an important, like all-consuming aspect. Like right down to obviously we've got it bleeding into the Brookie episode there. Just things about like the Millennium Bug. People were thinking planes were going to be falling out of the sky. You know, I remember like on This Morning and things like Richard Madeley telling you how to create your Millennium bunker with all your tinned food and all that in there, because when when all the computers fucking blew up at midnight and things, then we'd all be like having to it'd be like we're having to fend for ourselves on the streets like some kind of zombie apocalypse or something like that now. And people were taking that very seriously and very real and things, and like it's mind blowing to look back on now. And in reality, it was just another night, wasn't it?
Who's the who's who here? Party. Who else have we got going on here?
Gabby
Ranson.
Michael Burke.
Yeah, I mean that's the beat.
It looked like Dennis Bergkamp for a second. In the back, but what always comes to mind. But I mean, again, I was working as a temp for John Lewis Leisure, so people would call up and book tennis courts and the like. And they kept on asking me, do you want to work the Millennium Eve? And I was like, no, why would I do that? And it was basically a lot of the IT people. I don't know if you remember this, Gareth, you might remember this as well. They made a fucking killing that night because they were so scared of the Millennium Bug. And they thought, well, how else are we going to keep it? We're just going to pay you thousands. So in my office, a load of IT staff were in work, but they were pissed because they knew nothing was going to break. And surely they must have thought when the global computers didn't crash from Melbourne when they hit midnight, that maybe, just maybe, nothing bad was going to actually happen. And I feel like I missed out on a few grand by doing nothing. I don't know who would have wanted to book a tennis court at fucking midnight on the Millennium, but there you go.
And it's even going back before that, lads. Like, are we all in flying cars these days? like remember when it was just like in 2018, they picture it in the 90s, we'll all be floating around in these see-through cars and stuff. It's crazy, really, isn't it? Yeah, crazy. Mate,
we're never getting flying fucking cars. My anger about that has never fucking sided. I don't know who this is. Is that Anna Chomsky from the film My Girl? Because it looks like I think someone's French. But it's just very weird. Like it's as a TV event, when you consider how like polished and stuff it is, it's still very, very rough and ready, isn't it? I know there was the famous photos of the Queen and Tony Blair and John Prescott, R.I.P., all sort of joining hands and everything else. And she looks bored shitless that night, Liz. Absolutely, like couldn't want it to be anywhere else but that fucking place.
She wanted to be in Nottingham with Gareth.
She was just fuming that it wasn't about her, was it? The fucking selfish bugger.
So we all survived the Millennium Bug. We got into the new year, and that was the shape of television going into a new millennium. So I will pass the baton over to who is it next?
It's me,
Matty.
Liam. I'm
gonna music.
Yeah, I'm gonna let everybody know in reverse order as always. 10 to 1.
You got to wait, mate. I've got to press that music because we're doing it live.
We're doing it live. We're doing the top 10 singles.
Live, pal.
Live, pal.
Okay.
On Christmas, this is the Christmas number one. This, Liam, this is the big countdown of the year, like you say, the last number one of the 1900s. What a big thing this is.
Right, so let's get it on.
Then it's the Venga Boys with Kiss When the Sun Don't Shine. Coming in at 9, William Orbit, Barbers Adigio for strings. Number 8, South Park, Mr. Hanky, the Christmas Pooh. Number 7, Steps, Say You'll Be Mine, Better the Devil, you know, with the B-side there. Number 6, it's The Artful Dodger, featuring Craig David, Rewind. Number 5, S Club 7, another A B-side, 2 in a Million, You're My Number 1. Number 4, Cuban Boys, Congo Senti versus Intelligentsia. Number 3, we got John Lennon and Imagine. Number 2, Cliff Richard with the Millennium Prayer. And number 1, with another A and B side, it's Westlife with I Have a Dream and Seasons in the Sun. There's only one place I'm starting on this list, unfortunately. And that's Cliff Richard, the Millennium Prayer. Lads, come on, one of the worst of all time. Can we all agree?
This chart is like one of the worst of all time.
Oh.
This is the worst by
It's
far.
the worst one we've covered for sure.
Yeah,
it's the worst one we have covered because, like, I mean, we've got to start with Cliffy. I mean, the push though it got to get to number 1, and he just didn't get it, did he? He just did not get it at all.
He was there the week before.
Oh, was he there? Was he? Oh,
he was there the week before, and quite wisely, a whole group of the British public just went, no, not having that. Not having that at number 1. And is there anything more lazy than, I'm just going to say the Lord's Prayer, but I'm going to do it to the tune of Old Lang Syne. Like, how that comes together as a concept, I don't know. I mean, if you went to Top of the Pops that night, you'd have been fucking seething to have to pretend to like that shit. God awful. Absolutely awful, honestly. I just went through the fucking hymn.
No, but I prefer Gareth to do his metal version of this, Gareth. You know that voice you always do to pop me? Well, that'd be better than this. That would be better.
I love it though. It's just if we just add the word millennium, like that makes it the Millennium Prayer. Like it's like main event Jey Uso. That like
come on, Gareth. You've always stepped the bar. But no, this is like Gareth. I mean, how bad are we talking, JP? Like,
who's buying this? This is what I like. Who's taking
over
money out of their
seventies, over
taking money out of their pocket and paying over the counter to have this, to own it, to
physical,
listen to it.
Physical, you can't just sit here. You've got to go and buy this.
But it's the whole top 3, isn't it? I mean, like number 3, who that wants to listen to Imagine by John Lennon in 1999 doesn't already own a copy of Imagine by John Lennon in 1999 that they can still sell enough records that it can get to number 3 in a Christmas chart.
Yeah, I mean it's insane. But even number 1, like I mean, if we're asking the big questions, lads, like we always do on this show. Was any of us ever really a Westlife guy, or did we even think they were okay? Like, I was always a Boyzone guy, to be honest. They just have more stars, JP. They had a heel in there in Shane Lynch, wasn't it? You know, was that bad boy? Westlife was just too prim and proper. Like, I never got into Westlife. Not even, like, nowadays where, like, I've got groups of mates who, like what's the word I'm looking for? Ironically, might like them kind of thing. It's like, no, they were always bad. They were always bad.
Mate, I always thought they were fucking dreadful. I was probably in peak, like, snobbish as indie music kind of fan as I would have had, and hated these guys. At least Boyzone had the funny clips of them just doing dancing on the Late Late Show and stuff like this to like random tunes and everything else. But my God, like, this is like, I thought Westlife were fucking abysmal. Hated them. But my family, particularly the Irish family, loved them, absolutely loved them, and they'd go over and they'd play, and I'd just be like, do you not like them as well? No, they're shit. Like, why would I like them? This lot fucking garbage. It was like, should we get some Massive Attack on though? No, my aunt wasn't having it. So
I was going to say Westlife always came across as the boy band your mum would like, and not people your age would like. It's like a boy band for the older generation sort of thing, but awful.
Didn't they beat the Beatles record for like most number ones as well?
Like, consecutive from the start,
little things like that. Like, you're just like, really? Like, records like that getting broken by this toss. Like,
well, Gareth, I was going to say, so safe to say there was no Westlife pitches in that flat in Nottingham. No,
it certainly was not. Like, definitely not. There was probably some Iceland food before Brian McFadden traded up from Kerry Katona to Delta Goodrum. Like, but one of the all-time trades, that one.
Did you? We'll get into it, a couple of the other ones as well. It's this double song thing, which is clearly, you're getting two for the price of one here, aren't you? It's like, well, no, you're just getting two bad songs for the price of one, which anything is arguably worse.
Well, that's a good one. Let's go down, and we might agree on some here, but we'll go from Liam. We'll go with Liam first. What's the best or your favourite song in this top 10, would you say?
Oh, it's a struggle. It really is a struggle. I bought one of the songs in this top 10 from memory, and that was South Park, Mr. Hanky.
I thought that.
That says so much about me, JP.
Attitude, you know, we would literally raft through it here.
Yeah, I was at the age for that, but the whole charts, or for the most part, the charts is what I would call supermarket music, as in it's a CD that somebody would pick up when they're going around Asda because they've heard the song on an edition of Parkinson or something.
Yeah. Or an advert,
safe, middle of the road music. There's nothing there that's exciting or different, and I think it's kind of a sign of what the charts are to come. And you could argue that the Christmas charts are probably more so than that because it's such a competition to be number one. Looking over the top 10, I would say, from a level of significance and for what came of it and the legacy it probably left behind, is probably Rewind with Artful Dodger and Craig
That's my
David.
favourite on this. I love that song, Liam.
By far and away, probably the best song on there. I mean, I don't mind that William Orbit, Barbara's Adagios for strings, but I think that Artful Dodger song is very important in the landscape of like garage in this country, being a garage track that was able to chart in the top 10. And Craig David's still a massive star to this day. You know, he's always maintained his star level. I know we've spoken about Craig David before, but even something as trivial as what Bo Selector was to him would have finished off so many other people and artists and reduced them to being just a joke. Or or a historical byline, that he's managed to move on from that and still be a big star in this country. I think looking through these charts, it's really a testament that that song is in there in 1999, and 25 years later, he's still a big name.
Liam, that still sounds good to this day, though. Rewind, it's still a good, very good song to this day.
Yeah, I have to complete agreement there. I think the thing that I found about with it, I mean, because Vicky listens to Kiss Story, which is like kind of old classic Kiss tracks. This feels to me like the kind of epitome of a Kiss track from that point in time. And obviously, I think Kiss was still a London station at that stage, it was like somewhat of a big deal. And like you say, this is, it's a garage track. It still gets played today. It still gets people of all ages up there. If you play this in a club, if you play this at a wedding and whatnot, people will get up and dance to it, and they'll know the words for it as well. And it's had more longevity, certainly more longevity than the Millennium Prayer, which in theory should be lasting for 1,000 years. That should be being played in the year 2099, where I expect the world to be more like fucking June, with fucking warrior nuns using a fucking mind tricks and voices to change things around. But those contact lenses as well, big deal at that time, weren't they? Everyone wanted to look like they were a fucking snake or whatever.
Hopefully when it is played at a wedding, though, everyone does Craig David all over your boink.
Yeah, always. Always. So if we had to pick, though, lads, once again, we're here for the hard-hitting questions, like we always are on time, especially with the music. One-word answer, S-Club or Steps? We'll go around the room. If you had to pick, JP. JP.
S-Club.
Gareth.
At that point, yeah.
S-Club, easy.
Liam.
Yeah, S-Club by far, yeah.
Universal S-Club, yes, for sure. Yeah.
I think the thing that just stands out, like we're saying about like the quality of this top 10, but there's not a single guitar in sight, is there? Just like, and that's kind of one of the things. As like, I love my like Friday night Top of the Pops, and it's like getting to the stage where they're now, where like as you're going through sort of the late 80s, early 90s, and there'd always be like loads of credible guitar music in the charts. Now you get to this period, that's just all vanished, kind of. It's just something from a bygone era. It's like good music with guitars getting into the charts, and it's not like there wasn't good guitar-based music out this year, or like
new metal, mate. New metal. Gareth, it takes the lads. No, it does. A year or about 18 months later is where we in Italy, and we kind of got the new metal boom over here. The infancy in America, of course, it come over a bit. It's not like today where it's all the same, isn't it? Era where a song comes out, it's number one. We got it quite late, but the boom was in 2001. And as you say, Gareth, there was not much at this time. There's not at all guitar-wise.
How many years are we removed from fucking Blur versus Oasis as well? We're a couple of years.
3-4 years, aren't we? Yeah. 95, the big clash.
Yeah. Fucking Britpop and everything else. It's just like it's like it never existed.
But on a completely similar point to the top 10, we're looking at the albums that were the number one albums at this period in the lead up to Christmas. The artists, I'll run through the top 15 here. Shania Twain, Travis, George Michael, Celine Dion, Westlife, Macy Gray, Steps, Boyzone, Queen, Robbie Williams, Cher, Charlotte Church, Cause, Five, and Martin McCutcheon.
Just Top World, isn't it? It is Top World on a Saturday night. It's just, what's going on?
But it's all artists that you can't imagine people of a young age buying. It's all CDs being sold to older people as gifts, and that there's nothing in the charts that is really penetrating culture or like the zeitgeist of what's going on in terms of the bigger cultural conversation. It's all just safe music is what I'd call it. Just safe music for people.
It's mums picking it up in Asda, isn't it? And just throwing it in the trolley when they're in Asda and they're going down.
Wrapping it up as a Christmas present when it's really for them. Yeah, like we'll put that's for you, but put it on today because I'll be liking it type thing. It's sad. We think what I'm gutted nearly. It's 25 years ago.
It really is. I would share the albums chart, but rather like the singles chart, and they appear to be populated by ads for Branston Pickle, which is an inexplicable piece of cross promotion I don't quite understand. So I'll spare you it on these, but everything. It's like The Empire Strikes Back, isn't it? It's just like, no, you've had your fun with your guitars for a few years. We're going to take back over again, and we're back into that kind of routine. And it's the same with that top 10, because I mean, I have to say one of the songs we didn't mention, and it might be the worst one I've heard on here, but the is it the Cognoscenti versus Intelligentsia Cuban Boys song?
Oh. I might blow a few minds here. I had never heard that song until
what, Liam? I haven't. And if you haven't, then I'm happy now. If you haven't,
mate, what? I don't even know what the video is. I don't know what the concept is, other than it's a child trapped in a room, Joseph Fritzl style. Like, it's just like without obviously the massive subtext around Austria's famous interior decorator. It's weird. It's just plain weird. And again, I'll listen to this song, and the question I'd have is who was buying this? Like, who's paying physical cash, as you had to at that point in time, for a song like this? It's fucking disgraceful.
It's a bit like Crazy Frog before would this be before Crazy Frog? It probably
without any of the nuance and subtlety of Crazy Frog.
But I always think the worst ever Crazy Frog, but you seen the marketing behind it for like the phones, and it was the first ringtone type, so you could see why as well, weren't you? But this, I mean, JP,
shit,
torture music. It's just what it is, isn't it? You just put this on.
I'll tell you where you play this 2 years later in fucking Guantanamo Bay. That's when you play this. That's when you get your fucking money's worth. Do you know when some poor shepherd you've dragged off out of a fucking poppy field in fucking Helmand province? That's when you're like doing this. Like, other than that, it's fucking madness.
Do you know where the vocals are from? The vocals are a sample from the Walt Disney Robin Hood film, just on a loop. That's what the vocals are.
Just it's bad.
It's bad. Makes me never want to watch that film. No.
It sums up, as you say, probably the worst 10 we've ever covered on this show, and one of the worst 10 that dare I say in history. If you could get any other 10, you'd have about 2 or 3 songs, surely. This could be up there, lads.
On a wider conversation of the time, though, does anybody have a Christmas number one that they actually liked? It usually is a song that wouldn't appeal to us it's
It's
like
pushed
really
in it, like
it's
pushed
really the
down,
biggest
really-
biggest song. It's never a subtle like 1 week number one gets in as a Christmas number one.
Rage Against the Machine, just for that one novelty.
Yeah.
If we're going like being on, because X Factor dominated for like a good 10 years, didn't it? And that was the pushback of like we've had enough. We need something to break the trend here. And other than that, I don't know. Like I'm trying to think. Like Westlife, Spice Girls had a few, didn't they? They had a 3-year run maybe with Christmas number ones. But
before this Westlife number one, Spice Girls had 3 consecutive number ones. 2 become 1, Too Much and Goodbye, and then we got to Westlife, and then the year after this chart that we looked at was Bob the Builder. Then after that was Robbie Williams and Nicole Kidman.
I came back from travelling and everyone was like, oh, Bob the Builder. I was like, who is Bob the Builder? It's like, I've been away for a few months. What is going on? Why are people completely enamoured with this?
Neil Morrissey.
I'll always have a soft spot. I'm just looking at on here, but when Bohemian Rhapsody was like re-released again, I think on the back of Wayne's World, and that got to Christmas number one, and that was like, I always love a bit of Queen on there as well. And Reek Petite by Jackie Wilson, because my mum loved that and played on a fucking loop.
Let's have a look at it. Let's have a look at it. Picking one here. Yeah, Rage was 2009. Yeah, X Factor dominated 05, 06, Leona Lewis, 07, 08. We had the break of trend. They come back round in 2010, X Factor, 2013, 2014. I mean, and since then, I couldn't tell you. I'll be honest, once again, I say this line a lot on this show. If I had a gun to my head and I had to say, give me a Kiss was number one of the last 5 to like 6, 7 years, I'd be a dead man, lads, because I couldn't tell you. I would have guessed Ed Sheeran or Drake, and Ed Sheeran's had one, so he would have saved me in 2017.
I'd have only got Wham, because I knew Wham had finally got to Christmas number one. That was just like a thing that I had in my head for like last year. But
what is this, Liam? Like, sorry, Gareth. Sorry, there, mate. Like, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, but in between that Wham in 2023, as I'm looking at the list, you've got that Rage in 2009. But I reckon I would have to go all the way back to 1981 for Human.
Yes,
do you want me?
That
would be the only one other than those two that I'd even want to listen to, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the one that stuck out to me.
Liam, who is this sausage roll fella? Like, no, seriously, like he's had 5 Christmas number ones in a row. I mean, we might like him, we know who he is, but it's not to sniff at the same time. He must be a star. Who is he? I don't know him.
JP can probably share more light on that.
Is it a gimmick? It's got to be a
Lad Baby.
I saw that. I was just like, I had no idea.
I believe it releases a song, and it's like in conjunction with the charity every year.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
But it's like all awful like covers where he changes like the lyrics to like sausage roll or like meat pie or like, you know, sausage and bean melt or something along those lines. It's just...
Miss me. I've completely
even bigger reason to hate him.
I'm not sure if I'm being libelous here or not, but I'm pretty sure wasn't there something about him that money not maybe necessarily going to charity either? Wasn't there a bit of a fucking Captain Tom about it all?
Okay.
I think so, maybe.
Bit more time for him now.
I could be totally wrong. Disclaimer.
Or maybe not. And again, it's Gareth Hodgson here you want to speak to.
Oh, no, Liam, no. Apart from Ray, Girls Aloud, Sound of the Underground, I'll stick up for the girls there, 2002. So
okay.
Big Girls Aloud fan, aren't you, Matty?
Big time. And if that covers, I know if that's not here long enough, but that's because we can't really talk more about it. We've basically slated the music scene of 1999, and I will hand that baton over to JP, who's going to take us through another countdown and tell us the top 10 movies of December 1999.
He is, and unfortunately for him as well, he also has to work out a way of doing the music and getting the graphic on screen. So you'll find me putting the graphic on screen first as I do this, filibustering with a bit of conversation for a little bit, but he's got it back up now. So let's cue the music. So this was the top 10 in British film in the week of December 25th, 1999. At number 10, East is East. Number 9, Anna and the King. Number 8, End of Days, Go on Arnie. Number 7, The Iron Giant. Number 6, The Sixth Sense, which has probably been there for fucking 6 months up to that point. Number 5, Blue Streak. Number 4, Dogma, inexplicably high there. Number 3, October Sky. Number 2, Inspector Gadget. And number 1, shit Bond film, The World Is Not Enough. So, lads, I mean, this again, a little bit of a wacky kind of list from this. I love the abrupt edits you have to do when doing the live music on here as well. Might as well go straight to the number 1 choice. I mean, number 1 choice on it. The World Is Not Enough. We'd had GoldenEye. This was the follow-up to GoldenEye.
No, Tomorrow Never Dies was the
Tomorrow Never
second one.
Dies was
Terry Hatcher.
Right, that makes sense. We had The World Is Not Enough on there as well. As I just get the, I mean, how many of you went to see this in the film? I thought this was I mean, I never thought Tomorrow Never Dies was much cop, but I certainly did. I wasn't a fan of The World Is Not Enough at all for this. Jonathan Pryce as a villain, fuck off.
Who is it? Is it Pierce Brosnan?
Yeah, it's Brosnan. Denise Richards is the Bond girl, isn't she?
Yeah,
Carlisle.
Yeah,
Bobby Carlisle as a guy who doesn't feel pain or something. He's had his nerve endings cut, as he does with all villains. Robbie Coltrane as a Russian.
Big star that though, JP. I mean, I'm going to have to watch this soon because I haven't seen it for so long, but it fucking looks great, to be fair. I'm going to have to watch this.
It was, I mean, of all of the films that were like, I know. Tell me about it on there. I mean, as a film, it did well at the UK box office, 20.53 million, which was obviously quite big. I mean, I'd need to probably get like the worldwide box office figures for this as well. But I mean, as Bond was on, particularly in the Pierce Brosnan era, they were big films. They did really well, but none of you lads have seen it. Is that right? Am I right on this?
I haven't seen it since. If I have, JP, since the time, I couldn't tell you any scene, like, you know what I mean, or any memorable moment. So, yeah, I can't comment on this one, lads. To be fair, although I do love Piercy, I'm always a fan. So,
I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, but I have never seen a James Bond movie in my life.
Oh, Liam, that blows my mind, mate. Like, really? Like, not even patched up on bank holidays when you've walked in the room, like, and it's been on.
Not even Bob Holness on the radio.
Liam, I've got the box set that on Blu-ray. I mean, I'm probably a closet Bond fan, to be fair. Like, and I don't really go on about them as much, you know, in ways. Like, I got a lot of time for them. Like,
in the main, actually, I've always gone to see Bond films. I've always been like a bit of a fan of Bond films in there as well. I mean, one of my they're just so hit and miss. That's always been the kind of like issue with it. I mean, I thought the Daniel Craig, the last one, I thought No Time to Die was absolutely bang average. Brosnan ones like Live or Die by GoldenEye, and I think it's just because it just felt a bit different and it felt a bit more kind of like big budget after the low. Yeah, and the game helps with that.
Yeah.
Whereas for this one, I think the issue is your main villain is Jonathan Pryce as Rupert Murdoch, basically, and you've got Bobby Carlisle as your henchman. Now, maybe it's just me. I mean, I think of Bobby Carlisle from not only his Begbie, but singing a Liverpool chant in Cracker that's never been sung at a Liverpool game. Liverp OOL Liverpool FC, which I'm assuming has never, ever been chanted at any stage at Anfield whatsoever. But yeah, it was, it felt like even at that stage, it was going through the motions. Brosnan was doing what is really the standard Pierce Brosnan routine in there as well. I mean, and there's another one I want to go to on here, because it's as far as lists go, it's Inspector Gadget being there, which I'm assuming did any of you go and see Inspector Gadget? Any interest? You did go and see Inspector Gadget.
I think it's a pretty good film, actually. Matthew Broderick as Inspector Gadget. It's a lot better than the second one, the sequel with is it French Stewart from Third Rock from the Sun playing Inspector Gadget. That is an awful movie.
Sounds bad, that, Liam. That sounds bad.
But I didn't mind this when it came out, and I will also say that this Inspector Gadget had the best Happy Meal toys out of anything ever. You got a different.
I knew the merch playing to that. Why you like this film as well, Liam?
You got a different part. You got a different part of Gadget with each Happy Meal. Like you'd get like an extending leg, or like a head that could explode, and an arm that could reach out, and you put it all together, and it made an Inspector Gadget. The most incredible Happy Meal giveaway that they've ever had. But the film's okay.
Rupert Everett as the bad guy on the Sarah Jessica Parker's in
Yes,
this one as well.
That's how they
Is it
met,
what-
really.
is it-
That's how they got together, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? For this, I mean, I had a soft spot for the cartoon back in the day, and it was a great
The
Christmas
cartoon was
present.
unbelievable, and the figures were great. I had the figures when I was a
Big
kid.
deal.
Absolutely. I remember this coming out and feeling like, what, Inspector Gadget now? Like, it felt like Inspector Gadget was like a thing like when we were
like that, Gareth. Yeah.
Like a late introduction to suddenly decide to make a film of it in 1999. But yeah, definitely at the age of 21, it wasn't high on my agenda to go and watch an Inspector Gadget. So add that as number 2 on the list that I've never seen.
JP, can I go to one, mate, if you don't mind, straight away?
Come on.
Go for it.
I want thoughts on Blue Streak and Martin Lawrence in general, Liam. I mean, I'm a big Martin Lawrence guy. Got a lot of time for him from the Bad Boys, but his run here, like this reminds me of when like I was obviously this age, 13, 14, 15. I had Blue Streak on VHS proper. I had Life, him and Eddie Murphy, and I just used to love Martin Lawrence. Anything he was putting out, I just consumed it. But apart from Big Mama's House, I never liked that because I just thought, I know he's funny, but I just didn't like that even as a kid. But I loved Blue Streak and I loved Life, like so. I've always got a soft spot for Martin Lawrence, Liam. Love him.
Yeah, I don't mind this film. I remember seeing this film pretty close to when it was released, and I don't mind it. This is his push, isn't it? After Bad Boys. This is the solo run. I also remember is it William Forsythe in this film or something?
Yeah,
silly like that. Yeah. I remember William Forsythe's in this, and it is what it is, isn't it? It's that comedy cop like caper film that. There's about 10, 15 of them that come out every year. But yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I do like Martin Lawrence. I like Martin Lawrence. I think he's a good stand-up. I think Martin, the series, was pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't mind Bad Boys. I think Bad Boys is a good franchise. But yeah. This is what it is, yeah. I don't have a problem with it at all.
I never saw this. I was never a big Martin Lawrence fan, but that's probably based on actually having to watch Big Mama's House on the plane to Mexico when I was going travelling and there was nothing else on. And back in those days, you could get drunk on planes and people didn't say shit and they gave you the booze for free. So I just went, right, fucking loading up on vodka here. Awful. Even to this day, I say to a mate of mine, I was just like, I remember watching Big Mama's House and just shake our fucking heads at disgust at the whole thing on there as well. And that just put me off Martin Lawrence absolutely for life here. But it was, it was. I
tell you one, Liam, a film, Nothing to Lose as well. With Martin Lawrence and Tim Robbins, that's a good one.
Tim Robbins.
I love that film.
I like Tim Robbins, so I was more predisposed to that one.
In the grand scheme of things, I think Life is a really good movie.
Life is really good.
I think Life's a really good movie, and that's probably the high point of his films.
I'm a bit in the JP camp here. I've never seen this, and I was never a Martin Lawrence guy. Again, I don't know if it's an age thing coming into play in a film snobbery. A film snobbery in your late teens, like thing coming into the mix. But yeah, never seen that. And I feel like in the same way that like Power Slam would slag off certain people, and then I'd sort of go with that opinion. I felt like Martin Lawrence never could review an Empire, so then it was always
or
up
Total
against
Film.
Yeah,
we'd never have that. I mean, something that did get, I think, a bit more talk for the time as well, and it seems almost inexplicable how high up in the charts was Dogma, which was the like Kevin Smith film. Was big into Kevin Smith, loved Clerks, like I even loved Mallrats as well. And Dogma was like, okay, he's now going to handle like religion, and I have so much of a soft spot for this film because. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't always succeed. It's a hell of a cast, but it's trying to say and do some quite big things that you're not expecting a big budget, relatively big budget Hollywood film to do, like to going into at this stage, because now religious cinema is its own separate genre since Passion of the Christ, when they realised that Christians go to the film, you've just got to give them the endings and the kind of characters they want. But I went to the cinema to see Dogma. I remember buying it when it came out on DVD. Absolutely, like I was like a big Kevin Smith fan. I think after this, it's where it's all started to go like somewhat downhill. But it was, Chris Rock in there as one of the 13th disciple I want to say it's called Rufus, who isn't there, and you got Salma Hayek, and I think they face a shit monster in this scene in there as well. And yeah, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon as like these kind of like avenging angels. And I feel like spoiling a film that's 25 years old. Alanis Morissette as God, which is it's a choice. It's a controversial choice for this day and age, but it's really like it's quite wacky. I'm interested to see how it holds up modern eyes.
Do you know what? I was out when I saw this was on the list. I thought, "Fuck! I haven't seen Dogma probably since it was on the cinema." I remember going to the cinema really excited to watch it because Clerks was probably one of my most watched films, like in the years like running up to this. I remember really enjoying it at the cinema. But I went to watch it the other day, and you can't access it anywhere. And I was like, obviously, you can access it, JP, I'm sure, and send me a copy. But it was all like tied up in like Harvey Weinstein shit in terms of like, so it's not available for any streaming service or anything. It's almost just tied up in some place that it can never go onto a streaming platform or be released. So if you've still got that, hard copy that you bought, JP, it might be worth for you. A few quid these days. The old physical coming into play. But what quality? Like that's why I was desperate to watch it, because I knew I'd only seen it when I went to cinema. Really enjoyed it, but I was like, but that was a quarter of a century ago. I was like, I'd love to watch that again now and just see if it's still sort of held up with the same opinion. But alas, that JP drive might have to do the honours. Right?
I think I might have to for this one as well. And there's another film I want to show in it, which is tying very much with the Millennium theme in there at the same time, which I'd be amazed if we all haven't seen. And that was End of Days. It was an Arnie comeback film, if you can remember, from this stage. Peter Hyams directing, so it was Arnie does a bit of horror. Effectively, the twist, now go with me on this, is that if you reverse around the numbers 999 in 1999, it also spells 666. So it means Satan's coming back in the form of Gabriel Byrne to take on Arnie, which feels like it's a mismatch. He's a drunken copper who I want to say his wife's died, and so he's all a bit miserable.
Jericho Kane, I remember his name.
Jericho Kane.
Yeah.
He has a fight with Miriam Margoyles as well at some point when she's possessed by a demon in there as well, and it's schlocky stuff, but it is
CCH Pounder there, JP, as well. What a cast!
Yeah, CCH Pounder in there.
Oh.
Have you not seen this?
You know what? Sorry, this once again at this era, I was going back collecting all the Arnie, and I've still got a few. Liam, I've got like Raw Deal on VHS reel. I've got like Total Recall, Commando, and this was like obviously modern Arnie at the time, so I was kind of like dismissive of just like the action type, and this was, as JP saying, even as a youngster, I was like, this is a more of a proper film one, JP, than just like let's go and shoot some bad guys. So I need to watch this with an older head, and I think I'd fucking love this. Yeah.
See, I remember it differently, because I remember this being, was this Arnie's first film since like Batman when he was Mr. Freeze?
I think
it was quite a while, wasn't it? And I remember it being like, oh, Arnie's back doing like classic Arnie stuff, because before then you had like True Lies, Last Action Hero, and obviously the Batman film. And I remember really being really excited for this. And then it's Peter Hyams did Time Cop, didn't he? And he did Southern Death as well. So theoretically, it's Arnie doing a Van Damme film, which is that's Oscar award-winning stuff to me. But I remember it being quite disappointing when I watch it. And I remember there was a lot of hype around the time regarding this, because the soundtrack also featured the first Guns N' Roses song in 5 years. It was like the first song that they had written for Chinese Democracy, and it was on the soundtrack. So there was a massive thing about going to the cinema to be able to hear that Guns N' Roses track for the first time.
And also,
you'd love that soundtrack as well, Matty. There's some. Can
imagine new metal galore
on there. You'd be into 100%.
Well, let's not forget, this is when he went
rap new metal crossover.
This is when he went on SmackDown as well, Arnie, to promote this film, wasn't he? Yeah. And he drunk a beer with Steve, backhanded Triple H the whole 9 yards. Yeah.
You could tell his head. You could tell his head wasn't in the game, because he held the belt upside down, didn't he?
He did. Yeah, done a great Carly. Well, great Carly copied Arnie, of course.
I tell you what, though, it got fucking panned, though, didn't it, at the time? Yeah. Like I remember it's getting absolutely crucified in terms of the ratings and things, and I think even Arnie himself, like, has slagged, slag this off and slag the director off for his vision for the film and things. I think it was I was reading up on a bit on it today, and it was like saying how James Cameron pulled a bit of a favour for the director to get the gig, and then so Arnie thought, oh well, if Jim thinks he's good, he must be good. But then actually he was shit, and it was just a bit of doing a favour for the mate there. But I remember seeing this, and just apart from maybe like one or two scenes that were all right, thinking, fuck, this is woeful. And then like when I was watching that trailer back today as well, just the special effects, like
don't hold up, do you?
Unnecessarily bad special effects, given the time period as well. Like, yeah, I won't be revisiting this one.
Well, something that has been revisited many, many times, and at this stage, it's not a surprise it's number one because it's been around for such a fucking long time. At this stage, again, I'm going to make a very heavy assumption that all of us have seen this at some point, and it was The Sixth Sense.
Wait there, Gareth. Wait, sorry, you shook your head there, Gareth, as a no. You haven't seen this?
I've never seen The Sixth Sense. Do you know why I've never seen The Sixth Sense?
I was going to say my next question, because you know what happens.
Literally, I was excited to go and see it. Someone went and saw it, spoiled it for me the next day, and I was like, no point going to see it.
But that's the epitome of a film like that, though, Gareth. You can't. Yeah. That's the whole point of this, isn't it? There's literally no point to see it. No.
Yeah. Usual Suspects as well.
Yeah.
Them too.
Oh, was that the same? Oh no, I remember seeing that the day it came out. Usual Suspects in London, getting pissed up and trying to explain it to my dad in the pub later on the night what happened. He wasn't interested anyway, so there was no Waterford hurling involved. But as
a quick aside, my dad refused to ever go to a cinema again after he bought a ticket to go and see Usual Suspects, because he bought 2 tickets to go and see Usual Suspects. He was walking down the foyer to the screen, and somebody had circled who it was in the film on the poster in the cinema, saying it's him. And before you go into the cinema, he sat for the whole film to make sure of a point of that. It was who it was circled.
Mate, that's bad.
I don't think he ever went to a cinema again after that.
Don't blame him though, there, to be fair.
Shocking behaviour for that. This was. Just to give you a sort of a point of reference for this, it made just over 20 million in the UK. It was a film that just sort of never left the charts at all. It was just a monster of a film for all intents and purposes. But as with all them Night Shyamalan films, it's funny, it's been this idea of concept films, and Arnie Takes on Satan is just like a concept. It's a tagline, and then you have to write a script that kind of fits that. That's what he does. He has a twist, and then that's it. And then he works the film around it. And on occasion, weirdly, it can kind of work. But I remember going to the cinema to see this and thinking in my head, I was just like, what's the twist? Everyone's banging on about a twist. What is that twist? And then working it out in one of the sequences, I was like, why aren't they talking? Oh, right. Okay, spoiler alert. Massive spoiler alert. If you haven't, fuck it. If you're listening to this, you probably have seen it. He's dead. And it's like, well, he's not talking to anyone else but this kid. And it just sort of real, and that was just sort of, I was in prime. I just literally graduated the summer before as doing film studies. It was the kind of stuff I was in the cinema all the time on there as well. But it was just a monster of a film in terms of worldwide box office. 672 million. That's for a film that cost 40 million. Which if you do that for inflation adjusted, it'd be twice as much. It was just one of these films. It just got released and it was never out of the charts.
Iconic though, it is. That line, "I see dead people," is one of the most iconic lines. Yeah. You hear, and I've always been a Willis guy, and I hate it's horrible to see him now, isn't it? With his illness, honestly, I love Bruce Willis. I think I've been watching some old interviews on when he was on Parky and stuff. He just tells it how it is, but not in trying to be controversial way. He's just himself, and obviously love the diehards and stuff, but yeah, love Bruce Willis.
Under the Boardwalk.
What's that?
Big Under the Boardwalk fan?
No, I don't think I've seen that. Is this Moonlighting, Gareth? Is this album? Moonlighting here? Oh, is this his album? Okay. No, but I've to download it.
My mum was a big Moonlighting fan.
Spotify soon to get off this now,
But before we move on, can I just mention Toni Collette in this film? I think, as an actress of the last 25, 30 years, I don't think there's many better than her. If she's in a film, I'll watch it on the strength of her appearing in a film. And I don't think really gets a due
No.
until recent times with stuff like Hereditary and bigger films like that. But I think for years she's always putting good performances in good films.
She's always been like she elevates the material she gets, like you mentioned about things like Hereditary. She is that kind of like actor as well. And if you've never seen it, I'd go back and watch Muriel's Wedding, which is where she makes a kind of breakthrough. Just fucking superb in that. When Australian film was really like kind of like starting to come out to the world, we'd had Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, and she was just like, oh my god, like she's like an absolute star. And you know, she's someone, like you say, who like she just gives an element of credibility to anything else that she's in there as well. And before we sort of move on from this, I think the other film I would like to mention as being in this list as well, because it was a monster hit, and I think it's important for a whole lot of reasons. And it was at number 10 for this, and that's East is East, which had come out. I mean, that I always thought was like it was an absolutely mammoth film. It's one of these films I think has entered very much into the kind of British lexicon. It feels to me like it was the first sort of British Asian film that had really like there'd been the stereotype of what particularly British Asian cinema was Bollywood, and it was that type of cinema. And I think East is East itself, which I mean the sequel was like kind of like particularly kind of like low rent. It's a lot more hard hitting than what you would remember from it as well. But it just launched like, you know, several people who were stars. A couple of it ended up in Eastenders in there as well. I mean, it's got the great On Paris being in there. Jimmy Mystery is there as well. Yeah. I mean, I think what is it? There's Archie Punjabi, who's gone off to have like a really good career in and around like US TV. I want to say
Vic Ramoff, Corrie.
Yeah, Chris Bisson as well, yeah.
One of the Ferreiras is there as well, Eastenders,
And it was like just a really, really directed by an Irishman as well in Damien O'Donnell. Again, cost 1.9 million, made 30.4 million. The vast majority of that in the UK as well. I mean, if I get down the sort of the UK figures for this, it was like about 7 million there as well. Just a really, really big film. Very funny. I haven't seen it for a long time, but when I went through this list with Vicky, it was one of the films. It was like, oh, I remember East is It, and it just like brings back all these nostalgic memories of when you first saw it as well. So I mean, it's a film that I'm like, you know, at that point in time, you did have that one or two big British films that would just hang around in the charts for a long time, and it felt like at that point in time, East is very much.
And it was one that didn't have Hugh Grant in, JP. So
yeah, and it was just so many good moments. And what do you call her from Gavin and Stacey? Ruth Jones as well. Getting
not to the same level, but it almost felt a bit kind of like Full Monty-ish or something like that. In that it was that sort of level of British film that was just, I don't know, just catches on at the right time, kind of, that just suddenly gets a mass audience going for it. That maybe a year before or a year later, it might not have took off in the same way. It just felt a bit right place, right time. I think East is East, but definitely one that's memorable. As soon as you see that list, it's jumping out at you. But I think when I look at that list as a whole, I've got to admit, I feel very much the same way about it as I do the music list. When I look at it, it just again, whether or not it's just an age thing, a time period thing, or something like that. For me, I immediately looked at both of them lists and I just thought, this is a time period that it's just not for me, kind of thing. It felt like you're in this weird kind of like interchange, maybe, where you've gone out of your teens, you're a bit more sophisticated in sort of what you like, you know what you like, times are changing a little bit, you know, and things. So I don't know, this period always feels like a funny one for me. It feels like this weird kind of, I don't know, purgatory when it comes to entertainment for me.
It's like cinema's done the same thing that music has done before, where those like the kind of slightly more, dare I say, experimental music of like a Britpop era has gone. That strong, independent voice and sort of different wave of directors in the mid to late 90s. There's just not as many of them there. I mean, Kevin Smith would be like the kind of like the obvious choice out of everyone who's there, but ultimately it's like blockbusters are like back in vogue. They're like that's the thing, and I think like you say, it's not the strongest of lists. I mean, unless any of you want to talk extensively about October Sky Anna and the King or the Iron Giant?
I will mention the Iron Giant. I think
Ah.
it's a very underrated film. I think a lot of people dismiss it as it's an animated film, but I have seen it a few times since it was released, and the subject matter of it, the score, the writing of it, just the film, the whole film, is probably as close as I can name a American Western film that's as close to like a Studio Ghibli film that was released on such a big scale in the cinemas and that. But it is a film that if people have not seen it, it is well worth what it is. A very good film.
I can remember hearing about it. I just didn't go and see animated films at that point in time. It's my own snobbery that comes into it. But saying that, when you watch the trailer, you do think, oh, it's Miyazaki. And it's Brad Bird who directed probably one of my favourite Pixar films in The Incredibles.
Yeah.
And, you know, someone who, I think he went off and made a lot of live action stuff. I want to say he made a Mission Impossible film or something like that at that stage, but very much more of a like kind of an auteur when it comes to like this sort of filmmaking. But I remember it being really critically praised, massively so, for how like kind of good it was. But sadly, I have to say I've never seen it. I know my kids have seen it, but I haven't.
When I saw the trailer today, I thought, oh, I want to watch that, because, like, again, it was always something that I was aware of and just dismissed. And then, like, I watched that trailer today and I thought, oh, this feels like it's got a lot of heart about it and things.
That's
like
one thing with what you're saying, Gareth.
A bit of depth, and I was like, oh, I could get into this. Like,
it's at the end of this week.
Yeah. So, I mean, all I'll say about it, I mean, October Sky, I never saw on this list as well, and Anna and the King, that was a remake of The King and I, but just with Jodie Foster and Chow Yun-fat in the Yul Brynner role there as well. Neither of them do sing, which I mean, my mum liked The King and I. Not a film for me is how I probably felt about that one as much as anything. I mean, did either of you guys see either of those?
No, none of them.
No, exactly. So we'll, in that case, we'll move on from cinema, and we'll round up with the fourth pillar. Go you, Gareth, and sport.
We're into sport. We need a theme tune for sport. We need a little bit of a grandstand or something like that. Or something like that, man. Note for future episodes. But yeah, I think as we go into sport in this time period, we sometimes cover off a few different things. Obviously, we're getting into the end of the year as we're in December here, so we're very much kind of like into awards season in sport as much as we are with football. And I guess the first one probably to raise is BBC Sports Personality of the Year. Obviously, was a very big deal, going back in the day. Who was going to win that? Something that was eagerly anticipated. And in 1999, we had the winner has been Lennox Lewis with been the first boxer since Barry McGuigan in 1985 to do it. Henry Cooper doing it in 1967 and 1970. So one of very few boxers to have won the award, and coming off the back really of two fights with Evander Holyfield. But I guess, Liam, you're probably the man to put the meat on the bones of that one really, and Lewis getting the award this year on the back of those fights.
Yeah, definitely. It was very much a case of finally an acceptance of Lennox Lewis. I think that this country gave him. He would always be referred to as a Canadian because he represented Canada in the Olympics where he won the gold medal. He had a fight with Frank Bruno when Frank Bruno was by far and away one of the most popular sportsmen in this country and knocked out Frank Bruno. I think he kind of understood that the British public were really gravitating to him. And between 1994, up until when he won this award, he didn't have a fight in the UK for like 6 years. He went to America, where America didn't widely receive him because he was a European world heavyweight champion. And they've just left an era where their heavyweights had reigned supreme over the division with Mike Tyson, Holyfield, who he beat twice in this year. Well, once in a draw, but beat twice in this year, and all the champions that come before that era as well. Your Larry Holmes, you had, a great cast of American heavyweights. And Lewis, who at this time was being trained by Manuel Stewart, basically based himself in America, knowing that the best fights for him was in America, and attempted to raise his personality in America rather than stay in the UK, where he was never accepted as much as he should have been for the level of dominance he had in that division. He, for me, is still the best heavyweight from Great Britain in my lifetime. Better than Tyson Fury, better than Anthony Joshua. You know, he's by far and away. And I still think to this day, he doesn't get his due in terms of how good a heavyweight he was. You look at like the list of people he beat, he was in an era where there were a lot of good heavyweights. People always say he beat Mike Tyson when Mike Tyson was done and finished. You could say Mike Tyson was done and finished in 1989. You know, anybody that beat Mike Tyson after he lost in Tokyo wasn't the same Mike Tyson that people perceive Mike Tyson as being in his prime. But Lennox Lewis's body of work is what makes him such a good heavyweight, regardless of that Tyson victory. 2 wins over Holyfield at this time. Holyfield was a really good fighter. I mean, Holyfield had just come off beating that Mike Tyson, and the story behind that being that Holyfield was always a cruiserweight that moved up to heavyweight, and people still thought there was a bit with Mike Tyson that he was still the same guy when he came out of prison as the fighter he was when he went in. But deep down, a lot of people knew that wasn't the case. He beat Tommy Morrison, who people may know from the Rocky Five, Tommy Gunn from Rocky Five, who wasn't a bad boxer at the time. And if he was not possibly one of the better fighters of the time, he had a profile that people would remember. He lost to Oliver McCall. He was knocked out by Oliver McCall when he was undefeated. And a lot of people thought, oh, he's been found out. But he went straight in, fought Oliver McCall again, knocked out Oliver McCall, beat Andrew Golota, who was a really good Polish heavyweight, Shannon Briggs, who Vladimir Klitschko fought about 10 years ago, and Lewis knocked him out in 1998. Henry Akinwande, good fighter as well. Ray Mercer, Tony Tucker, Razor Ruddock. He beat a lot of good heavyweights. And I think the profile of the 2 Holyfield fights, the first one being a split draw that nobody who watched the fight thought was a draw, and then winning the fight unanimous decision towards the end of the year, kind of cemented him as being a star in this country as a heavyweight. And then even what he did afterwards, beating Bofa, Michael Grant, David Tua, Hassim Rahman, he got knocked out too in South Africa and then immediately rematched him and knocked him out. Then there was the Tyson fight, which was kind of the icing on his career. And then his last fight, which he beat Vitaly Klitschko in an absolute wild fight that everyone thought he was going to lose.
And Liam beat him on cuts.
Yeah, he cut. Klitschko was really giving it. Klitschko was a late replacement. Klitschko was on the undercard, and I can't remember who Lewis's opponent was supposed to be, but they pulled Klitschko up from the undercard, so Lewis had a fight because they sold so many tickets and it was a pay-per-view event. And I don't think he understood what he was getting into with Vitaly Klitschko. And the first few rounds, it looked like Lewis was all at sea. Lewis then started to turn it around. A lot of people say it was turned around because of the cut, but Lewis was really getting back into the fight at that point. And it's good to see a boxer like Lewis who kind of recognised that his time was coming to an end, and that if he stuck around a lot longer than he actually did, that it was only going to end with him being beaten by lesser fighters, just as age and wear and tear
respect that
got to him. And you know, he left the sport when he could, and you know, he very much did disappear from the sport for a lot of times. You know, he pretty much left it open for everybody to come after him. And
he's back doing punditry now, though, isn't he, Liam?
Yeah, he does the odd bits of punditry.
Good to see that.
And he trains the odd fighter in that, but I don't think he ever got appreciated of how good he was as a British sportsman and his level of dominance. You can say that was down to boxing, not necessarily at this time being the most accessible sport for people to see. A lot of his fights was behind pay-per-view, and honestly, that Tyson Lewis era is probably the advent of all the bigger fights being put behind a pay-per-view paywall. So he may not have had the exposure that, say, someone like a Eubank or a Ben would have had, that they're held up in a lot more higher esteem in the general public's mind because they could see him for free. But Lewis is, for me, the best British heavyweight of my lifetime, and an award like this really did feel like validation from the British public.
It's funny you mentioned there about the sort of everything being behind a paywall. If I'm right in thinking, the Hassim Rahman fight, the one in Sun City, BBC. That was on BBC.
It was, yes.
And he lost. And I think there was that kind of like, oh, well, of course, fucking typical, isn't it? The point where they don't have to pay for it. And that was, I always thought that was meant to be the fight that would like kind of expand his fan base even further, because you were getting this big heavyweight fight. on there, and Hassan Rahman was like relatively unknown at the time, and it was just that kind of like that shocker, bit like Tyson losing to Buster Douglas in Tokyo. He had that kind of like that feel to it of just like, oh, he's the guy who actually finally is the one who kind of like, I don't know if it's a knockout. He ends it.
I didn't train for it, but what I remind about them fighters. Remember the scrap they had on the talk show? That's unbelievable angle, that, mate. How good's that though? Seriously, it's just intense. But that's my thing with Lewis. Like, beat everyone he fought. Yeah, he might have lost, but he went in there straight away and righted that wrong and beat everyone he fought. Always respect them, and I agree with you, Liam. Put it where I could only imagine there, mate. What a doing the big man justice there, mate.
And you talk about maybe not necessarily having the love from the public. I think a lot of that spawned from not necessarily having the love from the media as well. Because I don't think the media embraced him in the same way that they did, you know, your Eubank or your Nigel Benn and things like that. It always felt like he was presented differently. So you can see, you know, a lot of people are consuming that and seeing that they're treating him as this Canadian, or they're treating him as somebody who's you know, not necessarily somebody that they want to see lose or something like that, but maybe somebody who they don't see as for us or see as credible maybe, or something, as they're presented in different weight divisions as well, really. So yeah, again, given the caliber of fight it is, just, and given how, you know, I raised there how infrequently a boxer gets a Sports Personality of the Year award. Pretty fucking big deal that he did get. You know, he did get that. Obviously, old Brand Beckham poking his fucking beak in there.
I was going to say, Colin Jackson loves it, and Beckham's fucking eating it. Oh, you give a show a bit of fucking humility.
I tell you what, if there's one thing when you think of Man United's treble season, the first thing that comes to mind is David Beckham, isn't it? You don't think about Dwight York, you don't think about Andy Cole, you don't think about Solskjaer, you don't think about Ryan Giggs, Roy Keane, you know, Schmeichel. I reckon Beckham's about 8 on that list, you know, for that season. Yeah. Andy Cole got 24 goals that year, and but yeah, good old Brand Beckham poking the beacon in there. But I've used Beckham there to move on to football. Another award that was given out that year was the Ballon d'Or, and we had a certain Mr. Beckham poking his beacon at number 2 here on that
shocking
for the Ballon d'Or in 1999 as well. Really, as you know, if we had our own rundown music here, we've got Lothar Matthäus still pulling it out of the bag at a old age there in number 10. Raul, top scorer in La Liga that season at number 9. Some great Serie A names there in Veron and Vieri coming out above that. Roy Keane getting his credit there with Figo, Batistuta, Shevchenko spelt incorrectly on this list in there at number 3 with Beckham, but top of the tree. Absolutely clear. It's Rivaldo taking home the award that year. He'd won La Liga with Barcelona, 11 points clear of Raul, second top scorer. Ahead of Real, second top scorer behind Raul that year. FIFA World Player of the Year, joint top scorer in Copa America, player of the tournament as Brazil beat Uruguay in the final 3-0, netting 2. But in the Champions League, Barca failing to get out of the group stage that year, finishing 3rd behind Bayern Munich in 1st place and Man United in 2nd place. So not an all-conquering year for Barcelona or anything like that for Rivaldo to get the nod there. But yeah, some player in his day. You know what? I imagine Matty is a guy you would have loved back in the day,
mate. And for me, Gareth, like you've just said there, like he's still underappreciated. Like I think I know Ronaldinho, we all love him, and I love him. He's probably my favourite player, but he's that ilk though, isn't he, Gareth? He should get more credit than he gets in this day and age, and that's an era where, like you say, because he didn't win the Champions League, and I know they won the league, they won the Copa America. He'd have to get dismissed now. Even I think it's just so focused on that, isn't he? In ways like, but I always say the real ones know, Gareth, what an actual player he was. Like he had everything though, didn't he? And he just pinged it. I always love about him. Bottom bin from about 25 yards, the accuracy and the power. How did he always manage to do it? Like just unbelievable player. Unbelievable.
Yeah. He was, is it the era of where he came about for Brazil? It's that sort of post Romario, pre Ronaldo. And it's the thing is that when they win the World Cup in 2002, they win the World Cup in Korea and Japan. It's the Ronaldo show, and he's seen as the main man. And he's probably at this point just got a PSV, isn't he? Before he ends up at Barca, where he's going to end up overshadowing
heel
him
though,
again.
doesn't he? In 02 with that, remember that shell Gareth off the
oh
he
yeah,
gets it with the ball.
in the corner. No, Ronaldo was around here because in that tournament, that Copa America, the one this year, Ronaldo was joint top scorer with him in the tournament that year as well. Obviously, it was post
pre-Ronaldinho, isn't it?
Pre-Ronaldinho. But again, all the focus is on Ronaldo, isn't it, at a Brazil level at this time? You know, even like obviously, you know, World Cup '98, and then all the advertising and things around it. But absolute class, that fucking scissors kick that he does against Valencia.
To get him in the Champions League, Gareth. I mean, who else is doing that from outside the box? The power. You get moaned at. You'd be saying, "What are you doing? Like, why are you even attempting this in the last minute? What the hell are you doing?" That's what I'm doing. Getting us in the Champions League. I remember Frank de Boer playing that, running down like from his position and just absolutely loving it as well. It's just one of the best, Gareth. One of the best all-time goals, just for the sheer audacity. Look, there's a pinger. Honestly, but
I really hope this video is not copyright ping. No, it fucking will be as well, because there's some absolute fucking scorchers going on.
Football sometimes should be just as easy as like a Brazil in 2002. Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, and Rivaldo up front. Yeah, we're going to win the World Cup, and we've done it. You know what I mean? It's like, as you say there, to focus on Ronaldo and Ronaldinho. Okay, Rivaldo's there as well. It's just unbelievable, mate. Best front three for me of all time.
All three ended up at Barca as well. Were they all at Barca together as well?
No, Jamie, no.
Ronaldinho was afterwards because he came from PSG, didn't he?
I think they were all. I think they succeeded each other, didn't he? I think Ronaldo was there first before he went to Italy. Then Rivaldo come in, and then he got turfed out, didn't he, to AC Milan, where I always say the real Ronaldo didn't ever win a Champions League, did he? But Rivaldo stuck one in at AC Milan, Gareth, even though he didn't play that much. He probably stuck it in, to be fair to the big fella.
I'm happy that I managed to see. I mean, on that list, I managed to see Ronaldo and Christian Vieri play for Inter. It would have been in like 2002. Yeah, they were up front, them two and Recoba, and went to the San Siro, and they nearly, like, it was 3-1 against Piacenza, but it was just insane. It was second last game of the season, they were top. Last game of the season, they lost away to Lazio, and Juventus won the league, with probably a bit of cheeky corruption chucked into the mix as well in there. But it was just like getting to see them live, like they're proper stars.
These goals, this is unreal.
But Gareth, another little cameo though in one of our most famous games, you know, the Gerrard Olympiacos. There it is, just right on cue. Rivaldo gets the opener to put Olympiacos 1-0 up on the night.
Wild. What a player, anyway. But so we've got that. Obviously, that's the Ballon d'Or.
Chips, you know.
Yeah. Domestically, we had things going on a bit differently, like different times. You know, we talked about obviously that's
the British Rivaldo, mate.
We had it was like Kevin Campbell or Kevin Phillips.
Kevin Phillips.
It's that post Man United treble season. So it's they've done the treble in 98, 99. We're now moving on here to 99, 2000 season, and at this stage, December, we've got Leeds United, top of the league. Frank Lemaire getting sent off against Leeds there. We've got Man United in second, Arsenal in third, Sunderland in fourth, and Liverpool in fifth. So you've still got Arsenal and Liverpool up there. United's obviously in the pomp at this time, but a great period where you've got Sunderland have like broke into the top division here, and this was when you did have that kind of era of some, you know, different teams getting promoted and, you know, mixing it with the big boys right at the top. And the front pairing of Quinn Phillips, I'm sure, obviously Niall Quinn, been a guy you would love on two fronts there, JP. I'm sure you still get a lot of enjoyment out of the Quinn Phillips partnership here as well.
Oh, absolutely massive. Like they were the epitome of what, like, at that stage of where we were in terms of like English football in particular. That's what you want in the strike pair. You wanted a big guy who could hold it up, and Quinn was the absolute best in that. I met him when I was a child. My dad went to, there's a pub he used to go to after Arsenal games called the Bank of Friendship. And he was in there afterwards. And all the lads knew him because he lived in Palmer's Green, which wasn't far from where we were from. And he'd been playing for Arsenal, but he wasn't on the kind of silly money. He made that money on racehorses later on, but not gambling, by buying them. And he was like, he was a lovely bloke. I mean, my dad was half cut. I was only a child, so it's not like I was drinking. I had a photo taken with him, and I know what the fuck that disappeared into the ether of things. But he was just like, as a partnership they worked. And Kevin Phillips, rarely has there been someone just sort of so prolific, and he had that sort of like Jamie Vardy-esque type run, wasn't it, from sort of like lower league football up through the ranks. Goal scoring machine, that bloke. Like, he was absolutely fantastic. And they had the crowds. They felt like a big club, Sunderland, because they were selling out every week at the stadium. And the stadium like was relatively new as well. So it was just like, it was a lethal partnership.
I don't know if it was that season or the season before. One of my favourite goals is where it must be the game where Shearer gets stopped by Hullett, isn't it? That goal Niall Quinn scores, the header, where it's like a rainy St James's Park. He just lets it hit his head, floats in. I love that header. Absolutely love that.
He was ex-baggy as well, isn't he, Kevin Phillips?
Yeah.
You're on mute.
You're on mute there, Liam.
Sorry, I was going to say he might have scored 113 goals for Sunderland, but he also scored 38 goals for West Brom. So yeah, but he did come from the Villa though. So I don't know.
A million teams, hasn't he?
Yeah. Towards the end of his career, he was very much that goal scorer you would get in to keep you up in the Championship if you were having that problem.
I honestly thought there was an argument that when England would go to major tournaments and inevitably not do very well, and you needed a goal off the bench, it's like, well, realistically speaking, who is the best person to just score you a goal, just find a way of getting you a goal? And it was Kevin Phillips, but he was never fashionable, and there was probably more to his locker than what anyone had expected, as people would have seen, hopefully, from some of the highlights there. But he was like, if you were to bring him off the bench, like 10 minutes to go, you're not asking him to run around for 90 minutes. He'd fucking turn up with something. He'd probably still do it today, however old he is, in like his fucking mid-50s. Like, he was an absolute goal-scoring machine.
Another one on the highlights for this year, for this month of this year that we saw there as well on the Premier League years was Liverpool here, and the game 40th anniversary of Shankly's arrival at the club. 10 years since we've won the league, and Gerard Houllier is in full pomp as a manager here. Matty, as we've got Michael Owen scoring here against Coventry. So you've got Owen when he's before he's had his injuries, and he's still got a pace to burn at that level. And TT Kamara weighing in with a screamer in this game as a
cool figure though, Gareth, wasn't he? Kamara, like proper, like the fans loved him, didn't he?
TT Kamara,
absolutely loved him. But he got a good little run though, didn't he, Kamara though? Like, because even at the time, you just think of like your Fowlers and Owens. He got a good prolonged little run in the team, didn't he? And he done well. But yeah, this is just that.
My memory of that is they were playing West Ham at home, and Kamara scored, and then he was on the floor for ages, and he was like doing something on the pitch, and I was still going the match at that point, and I'm like, fucking get up, we need another goal here, and I'm fucking like bollocking him, shouting at him, all sorts. Like, went home and watched the match of the day, and it was like, and TT Kamara, whose dad died this morning, and doing like a prayer of celebration on the pitch, and I was like, oh god, what a gobshite I must have looked like, giving him the fucking loads there, like near the front. But the turn and the pit, like when he used to glide over the turf. This was
it's come up a lot. Like even when you look like, and it's always on the social medias. Like I don't follow many. Like what a goal though! Like come on, what a goal! But like Owen and Liverpool, Gareth. I don't know if we've spoke about this. Like we might have on this show, but it's like I know what he done with Man United. I've still got an affinity for Owen Adams because he was that like. Me growing up, he was the guy. We've had this before. I think in real life, me and you. I'm an Owen guy over Fowler. I know that's bad. That is really, really bad. But that final, mate, against Arsenal. Sorry, JP. That's just always in my mind of like. Fowler couldn't have done that though. He could not, Gareth. He could not have done that. What Owen done. You know what I mean? So for me, he's always going to be remembered. Like I don't know what he done afterwards with Man U and that. But yeah, and he's the most boring, shittest pundit you've ever seen in your life. Over the same time, 8 films, JP. Like, what kind of guy is he? Like, but he'll always have that affinity for them games.
Hates films, loves racing.
Moving on here, you've got Kevin Campbell like firing in the goals here for Everton. He'd gone on loan the year before, kept them up, and then Everton's. I think they're in the top 8 at this time in December with everything he touched turned to goal for a little run there. But interesting that he's on this one. Obviously, he died early this year, didn't he, Kevin Campbell? And always came across as a great character, another ex-baggy, another ex-gunner as well, really. So obviously you two will both have fond Kevin Campbell memories as well.
Oh God, yeah, he was the only other player for Arsenal in the sort of early 90s that you could get kind of even remotely excited about, even though he was incredibly hit and miss for us because he was young and he was inconsistent and he'd have to do a load of work up front and everything else. As Hamilton Rickard comes up on
I used to love Hamilton Rickard. I used to fucking love him. I used to go home in the playground, when you go players, David Hirst and Hamilton Rickard. If it weren't obviously Del Piero was my first footy player that I fell in love.
Born a Paul Warhurst man, and I'll die a Paul Warhurst man. But Campbell was like, and it's incredibly tragic because you hear him being interviewed now. He's talking about the birth of his child that year, and obviously he's passed away 25 years later, and he's a young man. Benno's got, I know, like a real soft spot for him. Like he was like the way that he came in. I think he was still going to games at that point in time, so he was like a massive kind of like cult figure at that stage. And he, it was really sad when he passed on. And I would have to say, for the minimal punditry work that Kevin Campbell did, still better than Michael Owen.
100% better.
Kept you up, didn't he, Liam?
Yeah, the Great Escape, West Brom, which was the first time a Premier League side had been bottom at Christmas and managed to beat relegation. And I think he only scored something like 4 or 5 goals that season, but they were important goals. And he became somewhat of like a bit of a folk hero at the Albion because he came to the Albion when he didn't really need to. I'm sure there were other clubs he could have went to and not had to try and keep a team up from relegation to the Division 1 Championship at that time, and came and everywhere he goes, he was loved by the fans, wasn't he? He's one of those footballers that no group of fans has anything bad to say. There's never that, I didn't like it. Everybody loved him at every club he went to.
Indeed, and that pretty much covers off everything that we're looking at in football and in sport for December 1999. I say Man United were second in the league. Unfortunately, went on to win another later that season, but we'll forget about that. We'll stay in December 1999. Let's stay in that last century.
That's good, and that takes us to the end of time. Takes us to the end of the big 4 pillars, lads. We've managed to make our way through. Has anyone got any final thoughts before we wrap up and we get out of here?
Well, yeah, I'm going to watch Blue Streak, Rivaldo YouTube videos. I'm not listening to none of that music except for Rewind. Millennium Prayer banned from ringside forever as well, lads. Yeah, we haven't that. We all agreement. Okay.
Good heel heat for someone to come out to Millennium Prayer. Good heel heat. I'm going to go off and watch the entire BBC Millennium New Year coverage, all 4.5 hours of it. I'm going to watch the lot.
I've also, we're not time like this, but if anyone listening to it now, have a good Christmas, lads. If I don't see you, have a merry, merry time. Yeah, have a good one.
All good.
And don't do what Ron Dixon did and stay in case you thought the Millennium Bug was 25 years too late, but in fact it's going to make its sneaky appearance now. So, yeah. Anyone else got anything else to add before we wrap up?
And don't do a Gemma Johnson. Stay off them Garys.
And apparently this James Bond fella's a bit of a big star, so I'm going to go and do a bit more research on him.
Yes, Liam. Yes, Liam. Let's
from Russia with love. You'll love it. You'll love From Russia with Love.
Goldfinger, mate. The template for every Bond you've ever you'll see it. Unbelievable. Goldfinger. Watch it, Liam. But as always, Liam, thank you for putting the list together, mate. Unbelievable stuff. As always, every single time, knock it out the park. No, one of the best shows. I look forward to doing it every time.
Incredible. Brilliant selection. And so, from all of us here at Grapple, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And bye.
See ya.
Ta-da.
So, yeah.